Hello everyone, welcome to another episode of By the Numbers. I'm your host Richard Lewis, and joining me as he always does is the esports historian Duncan Thorin Shields. The show will be produced by Sam Bainlaw Davis, officially producer. Yeah, it's the same old shit. One more week talking about Counterstrike for a.
Sorry, it'll be gone soon, guys. We're winding down on that game. You know, the CSGOs, as you call it. By the way, I'm sure everyone in the crowd's applauding. No, great news. You know that non-stop standing ovation we've had in 2021 where all the bad guys lost, and that's great for the scene. So Flashpoint's dead. Great news. I'm gone from Flashpoint. Cloud9's left. No, it gets better, guys. Fucking Floppy's gone from CSGO. Yeah. It's getting better every day. You know what? You guys win. You, the clout chasers on Twitter, you win. Your lives are now better because Floppy's not in CSGO. You win, guys. Oh, wait, were you not in it at all involved? You were just a shit cunt in the fucking stands, and these were real people's lives playing out. Probably should pick a better spot to watch then, shouldn't you? What the fuck is this? Dude, it's mad dark at the moment, CSGO, isn't it?
Oh, yeah. People don't even realise. People think it's being overplayed. It really isn't. Whatever. I won't do another episode of Doom and Gloom. We'll just get into what you alluded to. May as well start there, right? Obviously, it's been confirmed now that we've had Alex officially leave Cloud9. I mean, you know, as in he's no longer going to be with the organization, which does imply he's going to be looking for a CSGO team and staying in the game, probably in Europe in some capacity, because there are no NA teams. And meanwhile, Zeppa and Floppy, the two NA players, have both announced that they will be leaving CS, but they will be representing Cloud9's Valorant team moving forward, which I believe they call C9 Blue. So I guess we can start talking about this. I think, as I said, this has been on the cards for a long time in terms of where young, talented FPS players are going to go if you're from North America compared to Europe, and that is that there really is no point now. If you're a young player with a few years' experience under your belt, there really is no point in North America being excellent at Counter-Strike anymore, because to do that is to actually limit your opportunities. You're better off, if you're in that position now, going with the rest of the refugees over the Valorant boat. And, you know, Riot Games are very receptive to this idea of, like, it's going to be very North American centric. All the big orgs are going to be on board. Apparently, you know, we're looking at some sort of official league next year, maybe end of next year. And there's not going to be anything equivalent for that in CS, nor do people want to sort of rebuild in North America. I mean, all the owners have said, pretty much, we're all fucking tapped out, and, you know, in shades of what's been going on in real life, funnily enough, with the Super League. The American ideal has sort of triumphed out in America, and the European ideal has sort of triumphed out in Europe. So, yeah, I mean, I think it's a big loss to see, like, those two young players go. But much like everyone that's moved across to Valorant, you have to sort of give them your blessing if they're from North America. It's not like there's any other option, really.
No, I don't blame him at all for going. Like, at this point in time, he's not getting Team Liquid or Evil Geniuses, so effectively his career's over in CSGO. Like, what choices have you left him? Like, I know people want to believe that, like, oh, no, but let's pretend we do care about all the regions, because you're all fake as fuck on Reddit. You don't watch the games that Triumph and Pain and Extra Salt play. You don't. If you did, we'd have no issue. Like, if people actually cared about NACS, they don't. The problem is they only care about NA if it's got really good teams. And right now they have to play in Europe, so NA, the region, is dead. I also think there's another thing. By the way, one of the things I love at the moment is industry people where they think they've come up with some straight fire angle, but they're just like that fucking meme of, like, the adventures of the guy who just started paying attention. Like, that, I saw that fucking guy from HLTV was like, you know, bloody Gambit and Heroic are two of the top teams and they're not even in Blast in the ESL. But it's like, yeah, no shit. You morons, while you were busy attacking Flashpoint for 1 year, literally didn't even stop to take a pulse of where you were in CSGO and realize that, like, you know, this whole Super League thing you all hate, it's been and gone in CSGO. We've got two Super Leagues that exist. They're called Blast and ESL Pro League. And if you're the shittest team in the world, but you're a Blast partner, you start every time in the group stage. If you're the best team in the world, but you're not a Blast partner, you start in the showdown and you have to work your way into it. So it's not as strict as a pure exclusivity Super League, but we're essentially, CSGO is is just run by two companies now. That's it.
Yeah.
And that's a bad state of affairs for everyone right now, because you see what they're going to do. Like, they don't care about the world of the scene. It's just their game now.
Yeah. And like, I mean, on that note, it's sort of, I don't know, it's a bit strange that if that was the case, then why, I don't understand why more of these team owners that have withdrew from CS, why didn't they commit more to keeping the league and the structure that they need to stick around to justify it? It just shows really on a level how tapped out they were with CSGO and the prospect of Valorant being there. It was clear they made up their minds a while ago. And that's down purely to developer confidence. It's no coincidence that these team owners that have made the decision to cast CSGO off, including Jack at the end, have all had, rip-roaring success with League of Legends teams. And, I mean, they still seem to think the Overwatch fucking...
I'll tell you right now, probably the maddest thing about my experience working with Flashpoint, Richard, is that none of them are out on the Overwatch League. I'm not joking, none.
No, that's what I mean.
All of those fuckers all still think Overwatch League is the shit. Now, listen, some of them that are more reasonable, think that, like, maybe the profit margin isn't going to exist. Some of them have, like, some qualms. But, like, somehow, you're right to bring this up. To you or me, right? I've always personally liked the Valve approach, the laissez-faire approach, because like, good. I think devs are incompetent to get the fuck out the way. Yeah. For the team owners, the people who have business, essentially, they think the opposite. Like, even if I would tell them, Riot's just blowing smoke up your ass with that conversation. Doesn't matter. Just to reach out to them, just to have scenarios where you can liaise on, just to feel like you're included in the feedback. That actually seems to be super critical to these people. Like, they really have bought into the idea that they are partners of the Overwatch League or the LCS, etc. Even though, to me, I think some of it's just cynical shit by the dev themselves. And if you know the way those devs are, it's like Sauron, mate. They don't share power. They'll pretend they do temporarily while it benefits them. So I personally still don't see that as a viable, like, escape route from CSGO. But I don't blame them if I know, like, what motivates those owners as to why they think that those games are more promising than CSGO, unfortunately.
Yeah, well, it's, look, it's like everything. There has to be a halfway house. The problem you've got, if you get in a bed with Riot, you essentially sell your soul and you agree to abide by their standard, and everything they say goes, and any criticism, no matter how mild, is completely off the table because they are basically, if you could sort of commodify narcissism and make a company that sold it and really believed in the product, it would be Riot Games. It's like, it's just so deeply ingrained in their culture. They're a bunch of fucking delusional narcissists from its foundational aspect. They always had delusions of grandeur about what they were going to achieve through the medium of spaghetti-coded video games funded by a Chinese mega corporation. But Activision Blizzard, if you sign up with them, you're basically going along for a ride of unprecedented greed and complete lack of respect for your expertise. It's sort of kind of being like a prostitute in that sense. It's like that you'll get paid, but don't expect the client to necessarily respect you. Or rather, So in that case, the orgs are the clients. You're not respected at all. All right, Activision Blizzard is. They don't respect you at all, So it's fucked up. Like, you have to pick your poison. Valve, unfortunately, have been too hands-off. Valve have been too hands-off to the point where nobody can see an upside to CSGO anymore. And it's a rot that started in North America because, again, as we've seen in recent developments in football, the American idea for sports is very simple. Your org, your team, your players generate value. You band together with other groups of people that generate that value. You stick all the money in the middle and say, right, we're going to use this to kickstart everything. And then you leverage that collective value to go and make money via broadcasting rights, sponsorships, merchandising sales, and obviously in mainstream sports, pay-per-view in the sense that you're paying for a ticket as well. We don't really have an equivalent like that, but people who actually go to the games and enter into a stadium. What we do in Europe is, very different. Our idea about sports is you throw money into the grassroots, and it's kind of excellence rather than wealth that sort of takes you up through that journey. And if you're good enough, you'll be in the better leagues and you will make that better money. You will win those competitions. But in esports, that doesn't really ring true. And in esports, as it relates to the North American model, the North American model has took all the greedy aspects of something like the NFL, but hasn't put any of the better aspects in that they have, like collegiate draft system or salary caps or player unions that have genuine power and can make sure they all get a better share of the revenue that flows in. They haven't built any of that into the Overwatch League. They haven't built any of that into the League of Legends, the LCS. So it's like, I'm not enamored with what these American team owners have done to esports as a whole, frankly. I think they've turned it into something that has no soul. I think what we've seen with the American team owners is they've taken all of the games to some degree and basically commodified them to way beyond what you would do with any sport, even in America. And Valve just haven't had any truck with that at all. And it's almost like you can say it's a noble stand that they've taken, but it's also a very naive and destructive one for CSGO. Because as we've said many times on this show, and I know it firsthand, Valve don't think those orgs do anything. They don't think they're important in the grand scheme of things for the ecosystem. They love players. They love players who dedicate to their game and are excellent. They love streamers. They love content creators. They can see all the value those people bring. When it gets to team orgs, they really are repulsed by them in some way. And I understand why, because as we found out, they're a bunch of greedy fucking assholes that don't really care about the infrastructure or the ecosystem around any esport. They care about guaranteed profit and very little else. But Valve had to meet them halfway, unfortunately, for the good of the scene, and that hasn't occurred. So these people aren't coming back. And the bad news is, go talk to your European team owners and the people who are running teams in Europe right now, and they'll tell you the same thing, that not only do they find it difficult to get a return on a CS team, they've also lost a ton of money during the pandemic, they say, because marketing budgets have dried up.
Course.
And
the first thing you'd quash, of course, yeah.
Yeah. And everyone's expecting a global recession around the corner. So everyone's doing everything on a budget right now in the European esports orgs, because traditionally they don't take $60 million of VC money, do they? They are using very often their own money or bank loans or whatever the fuck. So it's a fucking mess, mate. I mean, that's the long and the short of it. And I think, unfortunately, even if Valve try and fix it now, those guys aren't coming back. And Riot are poised to make a franchise league and basically give you everything you wanted if you're one of those greedy bastard North American owners. Here's your guaranteed dividends.
Oh, CSGO is working in like a fucking amazing focus group for them, isn't it? Just free marketing info, basically.
No, but I mean, it literally down to like the minutiae, leaked patch notes where the coach now has a slot in the game. Meanwhile, Valve are turning around and publicly saying, these 37 pieces of shit cheated. We never like coaches anyway. So we're going to say you can't have that. We don't like six-man rosters, so you can't have that. You can do it in other leagues, but you can't do it for the regional major ranking events, and you can't do it for the major. And so Riot, literally, it's everything. They watch, they listen, and they go, right, okay, well, we'll put coaches officially in the game. And we're going to make coaches a big thing when the league comes around. We're going to do features on them, And so what you're going to find is all of the frustrations that North American people have about where Counterstrike ended up, they're going to feel validated because Riot, as they always do in the beginning of a game, are going to give you whatever you want. They're going to give you whatever you want. They'll promise you anything. Just be there. Just make our game successful. We'll fuck you over later. Because at the end of the day, Scorpion the Frog, yeah, exactly. Or every time you knew it was a Scorpion, but the owners will be all right. They'll make their money, and there's the money making opportunities in CS just aren't there right now. and aren't likely to be there for a while. I mean, so yeah, hang on. I'll shelve the Cloud9 talk and the death of CS, and we'll go into this. So for those who don't know, it was obvious Valve finally announced that they're going to make changes to how we do bans for the regional major ranking events and the majors in terms of if you have a VAC ban in your history. The old stance was if you were ever associated with a VAC ban account, no matter what circumstances, even if you went to, say, a public LAN cafe and walked away from your PC for 2 minutes and somebody jumped on and you had video evidence of them doing it, doesn't matter. Your account, your responsibility as far as Valve are concerned. If you have a VAC ban, that's that, you're out. Well, they've now changed it. So basically, if you have had a VAC ban and it's 5 years ago, and you haven't competed in any Valve tournaments, it's essentially fine. They're not going to lift the VAC ban. The account will still have a VAC ban on it, but if you have another account for the purposes of competing, they will allow you to compete.
It's pretty good compromise. The caveat seems pretty well thought out, I have to say.
Yeah, it was. I mean, for me, this is like the best thing Valve has in terms of decision making. It's the best thing they've done in a long time because they really have come up with a fairly elegant and intelligent solution. They've clearly actually considered all of the angles, and so just on that basis, you can see they've thought that, well, first of all, yeah, it is unreasonable to hold adults accountable as children. Period of 5 years is about bang on for that.
That's a whole career in CS.
Yeah, exactly. So, no one's going to get away with like having a VAC ban for a year ago and be able to rock up and go, I'm clean now, guys. 5 years is about right. And then obviously as well, the added part is that if you've ever competed in other words, started your esports journey and then get VAC banned.
Kaylee, example.
Yeah, exactly. Attended events in 2013, VAC banned in 2014. As part of the vacuuming, those people can never come back because you were aware of esports, you were aware it was wrong to compete, and your trust levels are forever compromised because you cheated after you were a competitor. So it really does cover all of the angles. Now, this obviously threw up, there were a few notable players, I mean, 3 in particular that sprung immediately to mind. Jampy being the one we've talked about, VSM,
yes, of course,
the other one. VAC banned at 13 years old, 21 now. And
even ended up being kind of perfect. They got to play at Flashpoint and was pretty fucking good. And so you also knew, like, if they got him banned now, he could potentially play. He's the one of the 3 I assume will actually just become pro now.
And Dreamer was the other one.
The old Bulgarian
because he's only 24. So people, it's not like his career is completely over. I think a lot of people think he's a bit older than he is because he's been around for a while. So those are the 3 players that essentially should be cleared. Now, I'll just add, there is going to be a little bit of confusion. Valve might have to give some further clarification, but so far, so good. I think all of those players aren't going to be affected. Now, you talked about Jampy, so let's go there. I mean, he's already signed for Team Liquid over in Valorant because he believed there was going to be no way back for him.
Understandable.
Yeah. Well, I mean, also, though, I mean, I don't know how much his lawsuit played a part, but I will give him credit for it must have moved the needle ever so slightly. It must have it must have raised the issue at Valve.
Especially because it was all about, like, everyone's main point of appeal was, look, he's 13 years old or whatever age, you know, like, that's why, if you look at the phrasing of how they've done this, Richard, it does feel like they've essentially done this on purpose, just to catch the ones that we all feel like egregious, which is if a 12-year-old kid does it, who was never pro. They've almost tailored it just to be those guys unbanned.
Yeah.
Whereas, like, for example, if you did it naively and you didn't think through all the consequences, imagine you were just like, and as long as you haven't cheated in 5 years, you're unbanned. And then Kaylee's like, hello, boys, I'm back. It's like, what? That would be bad. That would actually be a bad thing, in theory.
Yeah. So, I mean, there's a lot of people wondering whether or not he's going to come back. And certainly as a European player, he's definitely got those options, but he signed, from what I'm told, a really decent contract with Team Liquid to go and play Valorant over there. He's clearly good at that fucking game. I mean, it's even though he's only been playing it really hardcore for a few months, I mean, his position is cemented as a really, really good player on a really prominent roster. So
they can all do that, isn't it? Just go from one game to a totally different game, and they're all just really good, almost as though they've been playing it. Like it's almost like they were practicing. Because as far as I know, Richard, it's a professional game where the other people you play against are all playing like professionals. So, but I guess they just got the gift, haven't they? Just there.
So
shout out Ethan, little rat.
Yeah, so
sorry, we apparently were giving Smooth a reprieve, so you are the new rat king.
Yeah, Ethan's the rat prince.
Nate, whatever, dude. That used to be one of the worst as well, when there was people who hadn't like followed CS, so they were just like commentators, like in other regions, like Nater with the 3K, like you just grow up and spell your name properly for fuck's sake.
It seems to me that any prospect of him coming back is kind of a bit naive because of contractual obligations. The only way I could actually see him coming back to CS would be if Team Liquid decided to switch it up.
There would be a logic with that. Yeah, maybe they wanted to try another player and you just transfer his contract. You don't have to do a buyout. There's a logic to that. The problem is, by the way, you've nailed it completely. Half of the problem is this. It's not even that he's just in Valorant. He plays for motherfucking Team Liquid. I can tell you right now without dropping dime on anyone, right? The teams he played for in the past, right? ENCE, or if you don't play for them, you're going to be playing for like Havu. Yeah, they don't have any money compared to Team Liquid Valorant. I'll go ahead and say that right now. In CSGO, those teams weren't paying that much, obviously. It goes without saying for a team like Havu, they were nobodies. So if you just think of it, unless he's going like FaZe Clan, he's not going to get the same money in CSGO. So bear in mind, he never got to be a CSGO pro realistically beyond a few games for ENCE. There's not enough to make the guy want to like give it all up and come back, in my opinion. I wish he would, because obviously I love CSGO and I thought he was a sick talent, but I don't blame him. Like his career never even got going, did it?
Yeah, that's the sadness of it, because he definitely could have. I think when I look at like what's happened with ENCE with their international lineup, they must feel a little bit aggrieved about this. I know ENCE is a shit show in terms of like how it became like sort of Alu's fucked up vanity project for a while, and they were running we investigated, and it turns out everyone's a cunt but Arlo, actually. Like, imagine announcing that. Well, that happened, fair enough, but they must feel a little bit aggrieved because they had one of the best young players in European Counterstrike,
sure,
and they couldn't use him except in select tournaments. They couldn't use him moving forward in the
Think how brutal this
is,
Richard. Yeah. Imagine if you're the guys in ENCE, but we're talking like before it all went to shit, when you had that first lineup and you brought in Sonny and then you got Yampy as your sixth man.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? If you pause time there, you put a pin in it and you go, you are the general manager of ENCE. What is the most important thing you could do at this point in time? The answer is obvious. I must secure Sergey and Yampy for future, because these players could play for like 5 more years at the pro level. They've got neither now, of course. Like, or both gone completely, seemingly no real way back. Like, no, the project almost couldn't have gone worse, and that says a lot, bear in mind the shit position it was in with those Finnish players. So it's a bit depressing, actually, that whole fucking saga, isn't it? Also, by the way, I know I've mentioned it in the past, but I'll say it one last time. One of the stories that I hate the most, because the first few pieces of information weren't totally accurate, is that people to this day, Richard, still quote as though it's totally accurate that like there never was a case that had any validity, any chance. Yampy sued the wrong company because he's a moron, and looked at like all these details were proven not to be exactly the way they were presented like that. Like even that thing that you can corroborate it again, Richard, the thing about like he sued the wrong Valve, it's like there was some like precedent where through that company they had in some way dealt with something previously for the right Valve. So it wasn't there some like fucked up angle where like people who are retelling that story have retconned the whole thing now?
Yeah, I mean, basically what happened there was because that version of Valve had dealt with distribution in Europe. They had to sue a European company to invoke the clause that they wanted to.
There you go.
So that was why they did it. So in terms of legal strategy, it wasn't the wrong Valve. But in terms of the one that makes the decision related to esports, the Valve counter argument was it was the wrong Valve.
But people made it sound like they went and sued Valve, the plumbing company, in Italy, like some stupid angle like that. Because as usual, if you haven't noticed, guys, what Redditors do is start with the end position that they're the smartest guy in the world and work backwards, like with all their opinions. So in the end, only Reddit knew. You know what, Richard? It turns out Valve Software, lawyers that Yampy hired, Yampy himself with his own life and experience, none of these people knew anything that was going on. Just people on Reddit, they knew it all as usual.
I mean, to be fair as well, I mean, like I'm of the position, I mean, especially it's easy to say it now with how the lawsuit panned out. But I'm of the position that, you know, there was never any chance, and sort of aiming at the fucking peripheral manufacturing arm of Valve, like on some mad technicality because they were listed on a fucking Steam agreement 8 years ago or whatever it was. Yeah, I mean, for me, I'm happy to say probably was the wrong Valve, all things considered.
For sure.
But yeah, it's a little bit more deep than it was. I mean, what I will say is that the Yampy trial was like a sort of necessary step forward. It shows that, you know, if you're willing to put your money where your mouth is and you've got a legal team around you, you can essentially force Valve's hand. I mean, you know, Valve, they're not like Amazon.
Precedent's important, in my opinion.
Yeah, they're not like Amazon. They don't have a great record with a lot of lawsuits. Actually, if you go look into all the consumer lawsuits they had in like Australia in particular, you know, they about refunds. You know, they've lost a lot, but you know, so I think it is important that you sort of push the principles as realistically far as you can through legal means, because that's how you're going to move the dial. It's one of the reasons why I was super sad the Tfue case got settled, because we haven't resolved any of those.
That would be
issues.
very interesting. That's, by the way, let's be real, that's probably why it got resolved, right? Because not only were the stakes enormous, but the stakes for everyone else in the whole fucking industry were insane, whichever way that case came down, if it went to the end, right, and got a judgment.
Yeah. I mean, like the Tfue case essentially was going to decide whether every esports organization that operated in California had been operating as essentially an illegal de facto talent agency, and we're going to have to.
Would have been so spicy.
Yeah. Oh, and if the precedent for that went through, it would have essentially enabled everyone signed to one of those organizations to potentially invalidate their contracts and seek compensation, and would have to change the way organizations operate moving forward. So yeah, I mean, I was super sad that that got settled. So there's still a ton of stuff in the industry. I mean, the Phantom Lord case is ongoing right now. So yeah, it's like there's a lot of interesting legal developments, and I think this was a necessary one that had to happen. But back to the point, I think Ents can feel aggrieved. I think Yampy can feel aggrieved. I think Yampy would have much rather have been playing CS and certainly been playing CS sooner than he had. But at the end of the day, whenever you make a decision like this, there's always going to be like a fucked up arbitrary cutoff point. And that arbitrary cutoff point seems to have most impacted on Yampy. But on the plus side, he's such a talented FPS player. He's already got himself a really nice contract in another game that certainly has a bright competitive future. So it's not like the saddest story of all time. You know, you don't need to shed any tears necessarily. The VSM one. I know the Brazilian community have been pushing for him to be unbanned for a while. He was kind of another one of those prospects. You have to wonder how different recent events might have been. Again, if this had been brought in a year ago, think about what MIPR might look like now. You know, so again, I'm happy for him. He's clearly a talented player. His time at Flashpoint showed that, and I don't think any 21-year-old should be punished for the things their 13-year-old selves did. The Dreamer one, Dreamer always maintained his innocence.
Yes,
Bulgarian guy.
He always claimed it was some sort of mistake on like Valve's end or something.
Well, yeah, he said he was the LAN cafe guy.
Oh, that's
so
yes.
Yeah, and Valve have never obviously clarified for privacy reasons. You can't, but they've said as far as they're concerned, he was in control of the account at the time of the infraction, so whatever that means. That again could mean he's logged into a PC and walked away from it, you know. So I hope, like again, I mean, they're in the old Bulgarian lineup are in an org called Fiend now, I think it's called. So it'll be interesting to see if he can come back and get amongst it. 24, it's never too late. He was a good, talented player. But the interesting one that sort of emerged recently was Vitality's new player, this Kyojin that we talked about a little bit on the last episode. And he put a statement out saying, oh, hey, I'm actually going to be eligible to participate in Valve events. And I think a lot of people, they'd heard rumors, but a lot of people were like, wait, what? I didn't even know you had a VACman, mate. And so this kind of shows... This is another observable phenomenon in my experience. This shows how sort of a little bit kind of more clandestine the French scene could be, a little bit more closed off, because that was sort of I wouldn't say it was an open secret by any stretch of the imagination, like Yampi's VAC ban was or anything. That did strike me as a little bit of a surprise. Anyway, Kyojin put a statement out on Twitter where he said, from today, which was in line with the Valve announcement, I had the pleasure to announce a news that is particularly precious to me and will probably change my life. I wanted to have an official validation from Valve for a long time to answer the past rumors about me and clear my name. A few weeks ago, Jerome Coupez, that's the guy who does
He's the agent for Bunchroom, yeah.
Yeah, I can't remember the name of the agency. He'll probably hate that, but then again,
I can look it up for you while you're talking.
Go for it. Proposed to help me conduct a full investigation with Valve, and after a lot of hard work and discussions, I'm happy to announce I'm officially eligible to participate at Valve events.
Players First is the name of it. No, sorry. Actually, that's a hashtag. He's got his stupid names. Prodigy Agency.
Prodigy, that's the one. Prodigy. There you go. I'm happy to announce that I'm officially eligible to participate in Valve events. What can I say? I'm extremely excited and will give 100% of myself from today on the game. I can promise you won't be disappointed. Special thanks to Jerome and Spiro, who did their best and worked very hard, and also the CSPPA. Without them, it wouldn't be possible. Absent for Yampi, supposedly involved for Kyojin.
I'd like to see the fucking, the receipts on that one. I'd like to know how they were involved. By the way, even the idea they're only being mentioned offhand by someone tangentially related to the story, that's why I have my qualms. Like, why aren't they publicly the ones putting pressure on stuff? Why aren't they actually involved with some sort of a liaison? Why aren't they the ones making a joint announcement? This is where I would want the CSPPA to be.
Yeah, well, I mean, the fact that they weren't the one driving this.
That would be. By the way, if they'd done that, I'd give them a massive W. It would be awesome.
Yeah,
if they've actually gotten this done.
Yeah, but I mean, if you go and look as well at the on the day this was announced, no fanfare. No, this is a great victory for player rights. None of that. They're still trying to push their world ranking.
I keep forgetting that exists.
But evidently, so do they. And half the fucking team's on it. No one counts it for anything. But anyway, so the Kyojin one was interesting. I only got wind of it, funnily enough, because I saw Nell. And what's he called? I always call him fucking Costanza, like it's Seinfeld.
Oh, Dorian or whatever. Yeah,
the old
vac guy or whatever. Yeah.
The old vac cunt.
The gaggle of cunts. Yeah.
Yeah, another one who's like mad obsessed with me. Well, anyway, they were talking about me within the context. They were like saying, "Oh, imagine if you had to." Imagine if we had to find out if Kyojin was VAC banned or not, because there was a lot of French people saying he's got away with having multiple accounts. There was all the stories never fucking add up. So that there was loads of rumors flying around about him, and you'll notice as well, even in his own statement, he says, "I want to clear up the rumors." And then doesn't do anything to clear up the rumors. There's no statement of fact. There's no I do have a VAC band account, but now it doesn't count. The word on the street about Kyojin is that when he got VAC banned when he was 8 years old. The world's youngest VAC ban.
That sounds like a story in one of your I hate it here videos.
I know, right?
This boy got black banned. It's an 8-year-old child. It's so reasonable, isn't it? Doesn't just go straight from Barney. I love you. You love me. Oh, I'm fucking banned. Oh, I've been cheating my tits off. Meanwhile, everyone's Finnish brothers just going, "Can I ever go on the PC now?" Sound.
So I don't even know whether any of that's true or not. But that's what's out there. I mean, some websites have reported that as being the version of events. But anyway, all the guys in the French scene were basically sort of deflecting and saying, well, why would we investigate whether or not he had a VAC banned account earlier? Because if we did that and then publicized that information, he would have been permanently banned. And they used me in the iBuyPower example, where I'd said a few times, if I'd known they were going to get banned for life with no appeal, I might not have done it. Which is I might not have published the story, which is a little bit hyperbolic on my point, I have to say. Past Richard gets quoted for that a lot. I go back and forth on it. I guess what I'm trying to say is I'm really torn on it. Some days I feel like I wouldn't, and some days I feel like I would. I think most times I probably would. I don't know. It's hard to say. All I know is the system's insanely unfair, but I did what I thought was right for the community, as I always try and do, although I don't know why I bother. But those guys were kind of using that example as almost like a justification for saying, well, we heard things, but we didn't do any digging.
Right.
And then they said, people say it's easy to do the right thing, but imagine if you reported somebody for robbery or stealing bread, and you knew they were going to get killed for it, get the death penalty. Not so easy now, is it? So I understand it. But, I mean, equally as well, I think...
That's actually more of a nuanced point than people realise, though, Richard, because it's one of the reasons why, actually, the moral question of whether you can be a police officer in many countries is actually an incredibly difficult philosophical question. Because the question isn't, will you uphold the law? The premise is it's like a philosophical one where it's like I can't remember them. I think it's like Thoreau or something. There's like famous quotes where it's like, in theory, if a law is unjust, in theory, aren't you morally obliged to break it at certain times? Well, the problem is, what if you're the officer and the law you're supposed to uphold, you actually think, like in this case, maybe the punishment is way too cruel and unusual.
What's funny about you saying that is obviously I do a bunch of political. I used to do a bunch of political podcasts. I think probably what's been good for my mental health is stopping to do that, because political commentary on Twitch is a disgrace, and it should be shut down actually for being completely irresponsible. All it does is cycle misinformation and sloganeering, and the most successful people at it are barely operating above a level of propagandists.
Let's be real.
Oh yeah, totally. But anyway, putting that to one side, when I've had the discussion, for example, around the slogan "All cops are bastards,"
seems a bit reductive, doesn't it?
Yeah, just a tad. Maybe not a lot.
Not not a lot of shading, is there?
But when you talk to the more educated, let's say, people around that, the philosophical point they make around that is, yes, because it's the laws that are unjust, and you enter into a system to uphold the laws, and therefore it makes you a bastard because you're
compromises
not.
You.
Yeah. So that's how they try and wriggle out of that kind of throwaway phrase. But yeah, I mean, listen, I'm sympathetic with that position. I think,
Agreed.
like on the one hand, I don't like the idea of journalists maybe knowing something, but equally, and then not publicizing it. But equally, you're not obligated to chase a story.
Of course not.
You're not under any obligation.
We don't
whatsoever.
take in case. This is one of the areas, by the way, that fans need to get a fucking clue. It is true on some level. If people like Richard and me will say publicly that, we define ourselves as being people with integrity and fairness, at that point, we have like a minor obligation to live up to that. But by the way, people fail to live up to their ideals all the time. But one thing that does annoy me is where people do that thing, Richard, where they act as though we took like some Hippocratic oath to like, no, I never promised, by the way, to tweet about any story anyone cares about or to write about any story. And if I write one side of a story where I write this person's perspective, I'm in no way obliged to write the other person's story. Like, it's nice if you do, of course. It would be a nice standard and practice, wouldn't it? But like, you're definitely not obliged, right? Fans really get like, I mean, you know this, mate. They treat journalists like it is the most, like, they think journalists is like being the King's Guard in Game of Thrones or something. Like, we're not on that level, guys. Anyone can do it. Some people are just bad at it. Some people are good at it. Like, we didn't take some massive oath to always live a perfect moral life.
I mean, I try and do that, but like only within the confines of journalism, and this is what I mean. It's like, I think the real problem with it is that because everyone's a moron, you end up with this situation.
They don't know what journalism is, basically.
Well, that's
I think it's just your entire life.
Yeah, so because I'm a journalist, if I tweet, it reflects on my, and we've seen supposedly intelligent people make these errors recently. And, it's like, no, a tweet isn't journalism. You'll know my journalism by virtue of it being on a website with my fucking byline attached to it. I don't even consider this really to be
really
journalism, but people make that mistake all the time. That desperately mentally ill person that's in every thread about me on Reddit always says like, oh yeah, he gets things wrong all the time on By the Numbers, and then we'll list like opinions, or we'll list like me saying there are rumors about evil geniuses pulling out of CS. That's the big one everyone likes to latch onto now. He was wrong about that. Look, they just signed Me Too. Yeah, I did say they were considering it. Other people said it first, so I came late to that party, by the way, guys. And I'm still 100%. All right, what's 100? I'm still 99% certain they were considering it. So, based on what I've been told. So what do you want me to say about it? I mean, they haven't yet, but, whatever. But yeah, so you see this all the time. Basically, people can't differentiate when you're on the clock or not, and that's a problem, because that's like expecting a fucking teacher, to suddenly pull out a fucking whiteboard because you want to learn about, the Roman Empire, or, expecting a fucking doctor to, like, you just can walk up to them at any time and say, "Here, mate, I've got a sore throat. Can you sort me out?" It's like, no, there's a we compartmentalize our lives, and there's a me that exists outside of the journalism. And then when I do journalism, I apply all of those standards, because I do in my mad fucked up mind think it's like an oath to uphold. But equally, you have to consider some stuff. I mean, there is a almost do no harm aspect to it. Like certain stories that are, is it really in the public interest?
No, people don't know, by the way. This is the entire crux of what people will never understand about why we have an issue with esports talk. Is because half the stories that they are not only not even doing a good job reporting on, but doing next to no due diligence reporting on. They're just reading the tweets like everyone else and then giving their thoughts or some vague approximation of thoughts. Half the stories aren't in the fucking people's interest. Like, some of them are just shit like that has nothing to do with even that person as an esports pro sometimes. Like, some of these stories, like the whole reason why you can claim, like, well, I had to go run this down is because it has some reason it's important. Some of these ones are just TMZ level trash, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Some things don't need to be known.
Yeah. So, it's like, you have to take it that serious. And I think about that a lot. And I think about it when I break stories,
Sure.
And I'll be honest, I've had stories and quashed them when I've, like, sort of considered it in the cold light of day. Like, for example, here's one, and again, I won't name names, but back when Azubu were burning through cash, remember Azubu?
2012, yeah,
right. I had a source over in that neck of the woods that was telling me all this mad shit that was going on. And one of the things that they were doing over there is they'd come up with this, like, fucking value calculator. And it was some mad algorithm. And they took into account, all your socials, all your presence. And then what basically shit out at the end was how much they were going to pay you a retainer stream on their platform. Now, it was fundamentally broken. It didn't really understand value. And there was one streamer who, at the time, wasn't particularly big, wasn't particularly well-known, and was being paid something like fucking, an insane amount at the time, like $12,000, $15,000 a month retainer. And so I was going to publish that story because it was in the interests. The way I was thinking about it as a journalist was, look, this is Azubu being financially imprudent. That's relevant to the industry. Here is an example of this financial imprudence. Went and asked the streamer for comment. Streamer was obviously aghast, like, don't want necessarily the details of my money out there.
Sure.
I'm going, I understand that. I'm British. We're very fucking prudish about money at the best of times. But this is the angle of the story I'm doing. And they basically, explained, I already get all this abuse and all this hate. If people find out I'm making that much money, it's going to amplify. And so I went and sat and reflected, and I thought, fuck it, I just won't run that one. Whatever. I don't need to make that person's life worse just to point out that Azubu's a shit show. There's other ways to skin that particular cat. And so that's what I did. Instead, I went and started digging into all the fake office bullshit and ran a bunch of stories about that. But, you have to think in the moment about impact. And so I totally get it with this Kyojin stuff. I'm not condemning anyone. I know people probably thought when I brought it up, I was going to segue into saying, Nell and the Vacom guys, and it's all a big conspiracy. But at the end of the day, I do get it. There's probably a number of other players as well that we don't even know about that have had VAC bans in the past. I mean, I've heard all the rumors about certain big name players who've got VAC ban, previously VAC banned accounts. People have been pushing to get it investigated for ages. People aren't sure whether or not they got cleared by Valve. At the end of the day, I'm sure there are some people who've got away with cheating on other accounts we don't know about. But the good thing about this policy is it's a catch-all for them even. What you did as a kid now doesn't have to hang over your head And what's interesting about it is, again, to make this a philosophical episode of By the Numbers, it actually shows that maybe Valve are now open to the idea of redemption as a concept, because they didn't apply this to match fixes. But you do have to wonder now whether or not they will be open to that discussion.
We're a step closer
moving
for sure.
forward. And the reason I say that is because, for me, if you're Valve, you have more purview to ban somebody for cheating in your game that you made via injecting software into the game that you made on an account that you own.
Gone back to rights, yeah.
Yeah. So for them to sort of be elite to show clemency is like quite important, gesture. But then if you've thrown one match in a league Valve have nothing to do with in a game that they made sure, but they don't have anything to do with the esports side of it, and you did it for virtual items that sure they're on your Steam account, it kind of feels that when you look at it like that, that's actually less within Valve's purview.
I could make the case right now. There's two obvious angles I'd use. Number one angle is this, Richard. The problem with throwing games, this is why the people in iBuyPower were so stupid. And then to concoct that story after the fact that was the first game that Skadoodle was not open. Like, guys, you're shit at coming up with fucking alibis. Don't ask me to write them, for fuck's sake. I'll give you an angle that at least works. First of all, right, aside from an extreme case like that, it's actually very difficult to say that someone threw a game, because for all you know, he just played slightly bad in that game and lost the game. Like, it's not as ironclad, like you say, as if I injected software, he caught the software. And then the second angle, and this is the one that I've never understood why fans don't understand, that the internal logic of Valve is incoherent. How can Valve simultaneously say you threw the game, and by the way, just like real crimes, how much money you make off the crime is factored into how serious the crime is. But we don't acknowledge that virtual items have a real world cost anyway. They're just imaginary items. Well, then I'm fucking home clear, Anna, because I just did it for fun money. Why is there a problem? Why am I banned forever? That's the one angle I thought never made any coherent sense, Richard, because to acknowledge that they did the crime, you have to essentially acknowledge how much those fucking AWP skins were worth, which at the time was way less. But, it was like, whatever, $17,000 or whatever the fuck the number they gave was,
Yeah, so I wonder if they're holding off on looking at that afresh, because obviously we've got all the stuff going on in North America with ESIC and everything. But I hope they do, because I think while this is a great gesture in terms of how it changes the competitive landscape, it's still not quite enough for me what you need to do to sort of have an active esport. You have to have a point of contact. You have to have a commissioner, essentially, or a community manager, whatever you want to call it. And there has to be an appeals process for bans. I mean, my recommendation would be that they just let ESIC do these things and maybe throw some money towards ESIC so ESIC can hire more people and not fucking be swamped with work so people are waiting 75 days to see the evidence before they can even file an appeal. So,
to me, the really good thing that comes out of this is, it's like you say, it's actually what it implies about Valve's psychology towards the esports community, which is they've already now, I don't think people get this, they haven't just unbanned people. What they've essentially ceded ground on is that not all bans are equal. Yeah. That is a fucking massive win, because that's the reason why I purposely said that the Yampy case to me was almost the perfect case of someone who'd been banned for cheating. Because one, it was called into question credibly whether he ever did it. Already that's grounds where you shouldn't have lifetime bans. And then secondly, he really was like I've given the example in the past like that. Like, what if a guy was 10 years old and he launched a server with no one in it, but technically he was cheating and Valve detected him? This almost is like that. Like, it's almost like I actually have that guy and he wants to play now as a pro. It was basically the perfect case. That's why, actually, even though I know they might want to admit it, Richard, because obviously no one wants to get in illegal troubles and people pressure you. If Valve actually, even privately, just said the Yampy case was something to do with it, I would go, cool. At least we know there's a methodology where we can get, make a point to you. Because I think it's the right move. Or it's going in the right direction, at least. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, I mean, again, within the broader context, bit too late. But, I mean, still, you got to take your hats off when people do the right thing. So there's that. We'll put that topic to bed. There was an event. Always love to talk about those. Obviously, we had the ESL Pro League, and then coming out of that, we ended up into the Blast Spring Showdown. And as Duncan explained earlier, if you want to get into the main Blast events and you are not one of their partner teams, you go through a sort of secondary tournament, essentially a qualifier, but it's got prize money and stuff as well.
Sure.
And yeah, they called the Showdown, and so we had that, and there were some pretty big teams in there because of the way that the landscape has shifted in terms of the teams that were good that partnered up with these franchise leagues and leagues that you have slots with and partnered leagues, whatever you want to call them, compared to sort of now where we're at. It's kind of interesting. Also, as well, Astralis were in this, right? Because
they got banged out first round.
Yeah. So Astralis were in this. I can't remember the reason why, though. There was some reason, wasn't it? They had to because
of where they badly in the group. They just finished bottom 2, like they did the previous year. The joke is, if people haven't noticed, Astralis, no joke, they haven't done it yet in 2021, so I can't say on that one, but they've literally, both times, it's always they fuck up at Blast. That's the early warning sign. Then they go downhill, and then they come back somehow later in the year. So, this is the third time in a row they fucked up the Blast circuit somehow. Yeah. I don't know how they keep doing it. Well, the joke is, the second they don't actually literally own the same company, they just can't do anything. It's weird. It's weird how that works, isn't it? Yeah. What next? Navi Cyber Arena to be a fucking neutral location? What world am I living in?
Well, let's. We'll talk about Astralis. They lost to the new look OG. I'll also add as well. The format is that it was one series and done. It was one and done. So it wasn't like you had a second chance or anything. There was no last chance saloon. Basically, you had to go through and win 3 matches, essentially 3 series. I think it was. So yeah, they lost to OG and went out in last place. We had again another sort of problem for Bubsky because he came in for a map, played on Inferno, got 7 kills, bottom frag. Yeah, mate,
this motherfucker has the worst fucking cursed monkey paw luck of all time.
I know, mate. I want to play in Astralis.
It's so brutal, isn't it? That's why I knew this guy was really fucked. If you guys don't know, basically, when as I've mentioned before, I then found out Astralis were trying to get another player. So I was like, wait a minute, this goes one level deeper. Even if they did want to make a player change, it wouldn't be you, Bobsky. This just gets so insane in there. This is mental.
No, it's really bad. I mean, Glaive had another poor performance as well, which look, again, he's got stuff going on in his life. That's fine. For me, especially with the acknowledgement that the contracts are up in December, I think it is, you do have to start wondering if we're seeing the beginning of a shift in Astralis and what's going to happen. But as you rightly point out, Bubsky can no longer be the solution. The guy's played.
They've ruined him, mate. They've ruined this motherfucker.
Yeah, totally. It's like. I don't even understand it. It's like some dark Francis Farmer shit, or the end of One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest that finally broke this cunt. Because when he joined the team, he was sick. When he was getting games at the start, keep in mind, he's only played 18 maps or something for Astralis since he joined. When he was getting games at the start, he looked sick when he came in the team. So much so, people were saying, should Bubsky be a full-time addition to the team? And the only thing that was keeping him out wasn't his form, wasn't his ability. It was just roles, Meanwhile, of course, his old teammates, now in Heroic, living the dream.
That's insane, isn't it? Imagine just watching Shush and them just go and win the fucking Pro League, and now their teams, they're even beating his Charlotte. Give me a fucking break, you know what I mean?
Oh yeah, trust me, he's having a nightmare. He will regret this move for the rest of his professional career. There's no doubt about it. And I know he's not said as much, and he's a tweeter deleter, which in these times is probably the smart thing.
I know. I can't really flame it. There's a lot more people should take cues from that in some ways, mate. It's not a bad idea.
Yeah. So he's out. But yeah, it just sucks. It just sucks for him to sort of be in this position where he's now not played enough to have maintained his competitive level of form, and when he gets a game, he looks really bad. And so he's in that awful catch-22. To be bought, you need to show off your talents, so you need to be playing. But if every time you play, you're dog shit, your reputation and, market value goes down.
It's the definition of contract prison. Definition
Yeah.
of it.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I mean, I wouldn't even call it the golden handcuffs. I don't know how much he's getting, but it's not worth this. And so, yeah, essentially, Bubsky is just in the worst possible place right now, which is, you understand now why Nicola Naum's out there tweeting, free Bubsky should be playing. It's like, it's got nothing to do with actually what's good for the team. It's got nothing to even do with what's good for Bubsky. It's very much about the business.
Oh, by the way,
he wants to pop off and sell him, right?
Obviously, since on this show, we have essentially been also like the unofficial fucking oral history of the Astralis fuckery during 2020 when they were trying to do the...
No one else was going to do it.
But I've got an update on that, actually. Some more juice. And I realised, because I got it from the League of Legends side, I've never actually said it on this show. So... if you want to really just get a handle for a moment on who the fuck the Astralis organization executives are, consider this scenario, right? What I'm going to do for you is I'm going to just ask you to imagine you're one of the players that played for Origin, their League of Legends team. It's actually now called Astralis and rebranded it, but it was called Origin at the time, right? Coming into 2020, they'd had the previous year one of the better European teams, right? But they were losing a couple of names. And some of the players in this team, they actually had some very good players at like top lane and mid lane. Some of those players wanted to still have like a team that could compete, right? So they were able to get one of the best AD carries. He actually plays for Fnatic right now. He's called Upset to join the team. But because Astralis, the org, were like, we don't have any money. These players took pay cuts to let this guy join, right? Because he was a very hot prospect at the time, like a bidding war. Therefore, you had to like pay. So these players take a pay cut. Astralis then, as you guys know, later came and said, can you on top of that take a voluntary pay cut as well so that we can run the org and that we're not in trouble, right? Even though, as I've pointed out to you guys, they later signed extra CSGO players, despite the fact they're asking for pay cuts. There's a detail that's even better. I heard, and this is so juicy, that the way they did it, Richard, is mental. It's not like they just sat them down and were like, look, the company's going through problems, we're going to need to make certain cuts, everyone's got to, tighten their belt. They didn't do that, right? This is no joke. I was told they just came to the League of Legends team before a playoff game in League of Legends and told them, unless people take these pay cuts, we're just straight up firing these people from the office, immediately. And as far as I know, by the way, I don't think the League of Legends players did take the cuts, but that, think about what an absurdly unprofessional setup that is.
Yeah,
that is so nuts. It's mental. That, because that just shows, by the way, not only are you a greedy cunt, you don't even overtly want to pretend you care about the other person as a human being. You are literally just a part of our business, and I'm just pushing numbers between margins. So can you just take a pay cut, or I'll fire the guy you care about emotionally? What is that? So yeah, these guys, if you don't understand, guys, the Astralis org is never going to turn this around. These are just who they are. This isn't like a lapse in judgment. They're just cunts. I'm sorry, they just are.
Yeah.
So I can't wait to see what happens at the end of this year, because it's going to get real spicy as those months count down towards December, isn't it?
Yeah, it's wild. I mean, I think what'll end up happening eventually is when those guys go, and I want to say I certainly expect Liv to go. If I was a betting man, I think at some point we're gonna get it all. We will get
someone's going to crack and do an interview for sure. Come on.
Yeah, I mean,
eventually.
And it'll most likely be Gliv, because if you know Lucas,
he seems the most on the level of them all.
Yeah. Well, he just doesn't even. He's gotten. He knows how to play the game, and he's super grateful to have and by that I mean the PR game essentially. But equally as well, he's also a guy who, when he's not obligated to do it, he'll just tell it how it is. So. That'll be an interesting situation to watch. But yeah, they got banged out here in the blast to the new look OG. The other big name team that got banged out immediately.
This was hilarious. I did laugh because I just literally went out my way to do that episode where I was like, whatever will give Moses some bloody credit.
I know. You fucked it, man.
And then he lost himself to a bunch of ball frauds and a bunch of full-headed never-weres. This is mental, guys.
Oh, mate, he was mate, this is the one where, if you're Moses, you're feeling really good about, oh, yeah, 4th place or whatever it was, Yeah, we're doing good. We're on the up. It's all, man. We got Dignitas in the blast as well. They've been notoriously bad, haven't they? They've been really bad, haven't they? And you get destroyed by Heap. by a player called Heap, you get absolutely fucking wrecked. You get absolutely wrecked, mate. How you deal with that, Moses?
On, mate.
Oh, mate. Oh, yeah. What a heap of shit. Like, you know what I mean? It's absolutely ridiculous. So, yeah. I mean, put even Freiburg banging out motherfuckers. So, yeah. I mean, this was like a wild one. I think I've noticed a few things about Liquid. Like, listen, on Vertigo, I think that map is such dog shit. I don't give a fuck how much MSL tries to gaslight everyone into saying it's the most tactical map out there. It's not. You go A. That's it, right? It only has one bomb site, effectively. So don't tell me it's the most tactical map. Whatever. But, you know, what I have noticed about...
Why are cunts so ridiculous in CS? Like, what's great is I even just had MSL on fucking counterpoints. And he even was just... Like, this is one thing I like in some ways about CSGO pros. When you point out how ridiculous they are, they don't go, maybe I should have self-reflection and change that. They just go, yeah, you're right. Because I pointed out to him that he is one of the all-time most ridiculous people, where his literal opinion's like a Mad Libs, Richard. It always goes like this. Whatever my team's best map is the map I think should stay in the pool. And I think we should be removing my permaban. And it's like, he doesn't even do it with like any like wink or nod. Like, he just that's genuinely his opinion. Like, you are so ridiculous, you ridiculous human being. Like, listen, say you like Vertigo. I think it's got nuances people don't understand. Or you know what? The way that you break down certain like very slightly different tactics can be very complex. Don't tell us that I think it's the most tactical map. That's because it's like one of those like ends memes or something like, do we go A or A? Like, you know what I mean? It's like some shit meme, isn't it?
Yeah. But yeah, they got absolutely annihilated here. The one thing I've noticed about Team Liquid is like all their big, really embarrassing performances and blowouts always seem to happen on Nuke. And that was a feature I want to say before Fallen joined, but it certainly continued. And you have to think, you know, whether or not they need to sit down and maybe revisit their map pool now that Fallen is bedded in with the team and everything. You know, as I said, they've still made great strides forward, but they can't feel good about losing to Dignitas in these circumstances at all. I mean, like, getting banged out 16-5 on Nuke is with a 14-1 T. Dignitas started on T side and went 14-1. Yeah, it's like you can't. This is ridiculous. Like, Jason, how women? Like, fucking get on top of this. Like, they need to do something about their Nuke badly. But, I mean, overall, like I say, I don't put too much stock into any tournament where you lose one best of three.
No, imagine starting the best of three like that. Like, yo, playing Dignitas, probably easy 2-0. Oh, Nuke CT side. Joke's on you. You pick Nuke, I get CT side, dickhead. After that 14-1 drubbing on your CT side.
Yeah, he's been absolutely annihilated there. So there was that. We'll get further up the pecking order a bit here, but those were two big names that fell at the first hurdle. Vitality continued their wretched form as well. It's got to be said. I mean, I think you know, there was like a weird fucking. This was a really weird.
It was a
one.
Cursed fucking showdown, wasn't it? Yeah.
Like because they took on a team called 9Z or Z. And they're an international lineup that's presided over by Bit, if you remember him, the Brazilian.
Yes. Old school 1.6 player.
1.6 player, exactly. And things start out pretty good. Vitality take the first map, no bother. And then they lose the next two, and they've just lost 2-1 to players no one's ever heard of.
Oh, and by the way, over the whole series, Ziwu has the least kills on Vitality. Yeah. He has almost the least kills in the whole server, and he ends -7 for the series. So he also just basically had like a nightmare series, which this year hasn't been great for him. But like the idea you're going to do that against nobody's like that's pretty shocking in itself, isn't it?
You know, the unfortunate observation you would have to make is that actually this isn't the first time that this has happened. To Ziwu recently, while Vitality have been going through these problems, the reality is Ziwu's had a couple of like bad series thrown in there, and you have to say this wasn't happening the last. Obviously, no one panic, no one's saying he's bad, no one's saying it's over, but you have to observe that yes, he was bottom fragging in that Vitality lineup. And you have to start to wonder, if some of those memes That, well, we thought they were memes, about like, oh, we've got this tactical setup, we do everything, to enable
We just flash for him or whatever, yeah.
We flash for him and he goes and kills everyone. This is a team in transition. This was their last series with RPK. We know that things are going to change. But yeah, Ziwu didn't look dialed in at all. Meanwhile, a player called Try just dropped 70 kills, 72 kills across 3 maps. So, a player from Argentina. So, crazy stuff. There was also, I'm loath to even mention this, because it looks to me clearly.
Wait a minute. This is going to be the joke about FNX, right?
Yeah.
Because when I saw that, by the way, I think this is another angle where you have to be a journalist to see certain things.
Yeah.
When I saw that, I was like, do people know that, like, if this isn't literally an overt joke, this is match fixing, like, or like something dodgy, like I got that twinged when I saw it, mate. The way he goes, "You will be rich." Like, why is that phrasing? I know, again, it is what you would say if it's a joke, but fucking hell, mate, that doesn't look good in hindsight.
Yeah. So basically, there was like people were saying FNX did a tweet, and it was after Bit's team had won against Vitality. And if you basically read what was tweeted out, it was, you should bet on us. You will be rich. Use my code. We're going to win 2-1. And obviously, people saw it and fucking went wild about it.
These are Twitter DMs between him and Bit because they used to be teammates. Yeah,
exactly. I've got the screenshot that was being circulating around, so I'll put it in there.
Because you notice no one else said. At first, people would just say it's like, it's funny or whatever. I was like, mate, this would be like considered evidence of a crime if there was any implication.
Yeah, I mean, just for future reference, don't ever joke about this.
Yes.
Don't ever joke about this. Don't DM no one DM anyone telling people to bet. Don't even do it privately. You never know when your shit's going to get hacked. There's all sorts of hacks going around at the moment, isn't there? People are having their Steam accounts wrecked. Let me tell you straight up, if you're a pro player and you are making jokes of this nature, fucking stop. Like, this is you don't want something to be misconstrued. And this was very quickly misconstrued. This was like the #1 thread on HLTV, hundreds of comments, people talking about it. Think it went on Reddit. What does this mean? Why is this? Because obviously the joke is it was such an unlikely result that they've said, haha, we've won 2-1. Yes. Look, DM me, bet on me, like, you'll be rich. Like, that was the joke. And obviously FNX deleted the tweet and then said, jokes on Bit. I don't need to bet. I'm already rich. So,
Listen, FNX, that also isn't the best angle here. What I would say is jokes on him. I don't do match fixing or cheating, and that wasn't it. So,
but
his angle's like, I don't even need to, though, I'm rich.
Yeah, anyway,
why are people so weird nowadays? I know.
Just get moved past me, I guess. Don't look at him, mummy. Don't
look at him. Stupid, isn't it?
Don't look at him. Anyway, yeah. So look, all well and good. The problem with the joke is that it implies another team through. This is why it's particularly egregious and definitely not territory you want to veer into. You would already, by the way, even if you would even placed a bet, you would already be violating the just betting on the games. But the
context isn't great as well, because think about it, right? Since people know if they lose this game that Vitality loses RPK at the end of his career, they're not in great form, by the way, so they probably aren't going to win this showdown anyway. Yeah. What's fucked is you could even build like a case of like, this would be a very weird game that the team who lose could have a reason to like. You don't. That's why you don't even want to implicate yourself in this. It's just stupid for everyone.
Yeah, and keep in mind as well. I know Vitality. Vitality have already had their fucking fair share of hate thrown their way. And listen,
of course,
I was one of the guys who amplified it, and I'd do it again. They should have been disqualified from that tournament. I don't give a fuck.
They should have been punished for sure.
Mate, you got fined $10,000. Players don't even fucking pay that. What you talking about? Should have been kicked out the tournament. No more. Like, turn your fucking strings off, you mad cunts. It's the online era, and you've got 5 people in a room with all the mobile phones out. Fuck off. Like, grow up. But anyway, I'd do it again. But the point was, it did upset them. And they said it was like they felt they got too much hate, and suddenly everyone was calling them a cheater,
Sure.
and which is obviously completely overboard and not anything I would ever sanction. But but so they don't want to have a bunch of fucking numpties fucking tweeting at them like, you threw a game, it's been proven, bits on it. Like, if you want to make a joke, you have to be the butt of it. You can't call another team's integrity into question. So yeah, it was particularly bad. But this was just another one of those wild results, as you said, a cursed event in many ways. But also,
mate, I'll give you here's the punchline. If anyone wants like a little bit of levity on this line, though, was I saw right. This is where some people just can't catch a break. Like, you know what? I'm saying it right now, Richard. Fucking Pimp is the new Dust because he's just cursed. Like, I saw right. Remember, on blast predictions of all the tournaments, so the ones where you're allowed to do wacky ones, everyone knows Anders does the stupid ones on purpose, doesn't he? He picks like the unlikely team to win because it's like his angle, right? So think about the context of these games, right? Astralis has lost to OG, not a massive upset, but still new lineup. As we say, Dignitas has just 2-0 Team Liquid. Vitality's just lost to 9Z, so Pimp has the audacity to predict Saw will beat Heroic. And people were just going like, you bloody moron. It's like, look what you just look happened. Like, it's not even that crazy anymore, is it? Like, he's just doing a joke. They were acting like he was saying, like, after running all the results through every possible scenario in a supercomputer, I believe actually this is an easy win for Saw. Like, obviously he's not doing that, is he? It's just a fucking throwaway prediction. But as usual, if Pimp does anything, we have to he has to have the death penalty for every single sin as well, of course.
Mate, well, I mean, he was already getting it in the neck over. Apparently, he'd said that he like what we said, that something has to change at Na'Vi. Tactically, they're off. So he was already getting that.
How dare he?
How dare he say?
Oh, by the way, you're going to appreciate this. Normally, I only keep this for my people, but I'll just give you it for free, right? Basically, I normally never reveal content I've done that's in the can. All I'm going to tell you is this, Richard. There's nothing to it with spicy in it, by the way, but think about how much they're going to meld, Richard, because I've got Blade and I've done a Stratbook episode with it. It's already in the can. Listen, as I'm saying, he doesn't say some stupid shit that'll like be really bad. But just imagine when I publish it, mate. Just imagine when I press that button. Like, they're gonna mouth. They're gonna go off the because obviously I told you he's not. First of all, he's not involved in drama. So I don't think he's even aware there's any drama. And because he just knows me for years, he didn't even think it was weird. So fuck it, I've done it. There you go.
Why is he agreed to that?
Who the fuck knows? It's good though, isn't it? It is a good episode though. He just explain himself. Oh, no, it's mental, isn't it? It's so mental, isn't it? Listen, part of me does think like, read the room a bit. Maybe not the time for it. I'd maybe wait a few months, but fuck it. If he says yes, better get it done, hadn't I? Sound. All I'll tell you is this. This was actually an episode where Legia couldn't be there. He actually had some like extenuating circumstances. I told him, fuck this, I'm doing it no matter what. I just did it with just me and Blade. Like, I'm not letting this get rescheduled and then never happen. Like, no.
Yeah.
What if someone actually has a conversation with him and translates some shit into Russian?
See, this is the thing. Like, he's always been a sound dude. I'm not banging on him because I fucking think he's like an arsehole or anything. I'm doing it because I just think he's like a little bit anachronistic, let's say, in how he approaches the game. So...
Oh, he does. But by the way, you'll see in this interview, he has similar thoughts. He knows some of this shit. He's not an idiot like these fucking stupid fans.
Right.
That's always been the other thing that's so feckless about the internet now, is where a fandom or a fan base has an opinion that even the person they're a fan of doesn't even vaguely share. But then they all act like, how dare you say that? And you're like, I'm actually friends with that guy. He doesn't mind. Like, no, how dare you though? It's outrageous. It's like, did you hear the part where I know him? And he's just cool with it. Like,
yeah, I know. I know, it's wild, isn't it? And it's the other thing as well. I mean, like, we think about all the players we've criticized down the fucking years. There's a ton of them that understand that comes with a fucking territory and are just perfectly sound with you. It's only like the real, like, fucking insane egotists or the kids that get really upset about it because, they don't define themselves in any other broader context. Like, so yeah, well, looking forward to that. Here's the big story that came out of this. G2. They won all their matches. I did a video about it for Deserto, basically giving my observations, which are, look, okay, they seem to have cracked the formula, but let's not go overboard, and I'll say why. So they beat Spirit. That was the one that they had in sort of the final, because there's like essentially 2 finals. But they also beat OG and they beat Endpoint, and they've been going back and forth on how the team functions. Nico famously, when Kenny S went out of the team and Jax came back, Nico famously said, "I'm going to AWP. I'll be a hybrid player. I will nail it." And to be fair to him, he had some good performances on the AWP, but he also had some diabolical ones. And the last thing you cannot do, with an AWP is you can't be streaky. You've got to be solid. You've got to be solid. It's too important.
Is there someone out there? Listen, I don't normally make this request, but I actually do genuinely love the social media approach of G2 Esports so much. I want to ask, can we do a 3-2-1 on this? It's not very long, but this banter on Twitter, the idea that they actually banter Nico like this, just watch this on stream. It's actually, it is legit funny as fuck, this banter this time. Because I know he's not liking this. There's no way he's on board, but it's so fuck. Just watch it. Do a 3-2-1.
Yeah, 3-2-1. Yeah,
3, 2, 1, go.
It's outrageous, man.
They have absolutely wrecked it.
It's actually mental, isn't it? I know, it's so good. So good.
You got to love G2. Like, how can you not?
I know, exactly. How can you not love that? You just have to go fair play, don't you? Fair play.
But yeah, anyway, so look, Nico was doing it, but then in the end, I think he saw sense. He finally picked up the Krieg for the first time in his career. Seems to favour that now if they need something with a bit more long range. And to be fair, he fucking dominates with it even after the nerf. Kind of makes you wonder.
Good with it, yeah,
kind of makes you wonder what he could have done had he done that sooner, when the game was basically Krieg central and the gun was broken. But anyway, they put Amanek on the AWP. He's kind of playing this weird support hybrid AWPing role, and it's worked. I mean, I've got to say, Jax once again, the great soldier, completely selfless, seems to be occupying some slightly different roles on some of the maps now, and that's obviously to enable Amanek to play this new role. So Jax has had to sort of add a support play element to his game. Amanek picking up an AWP, getting kills with it. Had some mad clutches as well over the course of this series, and looks like a much better, more well-rounded player. So G2 are definitely looking better now than they did with Kenny S. But that being said, there is some crucial context here for how they won. The OG game in particular had an incident which was, I mean...
There was something very weird going on with this. This is one of those ones where, like, again, Richard, how is the CSPPH never ever talking about any of these things? Like, this is
I would have thought, no, but I would have thought they would have loved this because they get to bang on blast again, right?
To me, it was like, this is a layup for you guys. They're fucking throwing the alley oop, just slam it. Yeah. Every fan's on your side, by the way, because everyone who was watching the game was like, "This is bullshit." I was waiting for like 40 minutes of some dumb shit.
Yeah. So it was, it was a weird one because basically what happened. I can't remember the exact score. It was on the it was on the was it the deciding map? But I think it was at 15-11. Anyway, 15-11. You have this weird incident where Jax times out, he lags out, and there was some damage done, but he lagged out first. And so there's obviously a little bit of, you have to go to the tape and review it before you do the match medic and everything else. For some reason, resolving what happened took 50 minutes. So there you go. Sorry, it was at 8-8 on the decider. My bad. So it took 50 minutes to arrive at a conclusion as to what would happen. And they restarted the game. And obviously, as we know, G2 went on to win it. And so it did throw up a lot of questions about why it sort of took 50 minutes for the blast to basically arrive at the decision they did. And we still don't really know. There isn't any explanation about where the process fell down or what happened.
And they are both, in case people wondered, they are both technically like Blast teams. So it's not like, it wasn't like they were just trying to help one team. And fuck it. So as far as we know, there's not really any good reason for this to have taken so long. It's just something like incompetence, as far as I can tell.
Yeah, I mean, they put a statement out about it, but, which was, as you imagine, very milquetoast, just saying the integrity of the game matters more. And we, apologize it took so long and everything else. But you have to say that OG can definitely feel rightly aggrieved here. I'm not going to necessarily fall into a world where you start saying, it went against OG because the game was close. And it obviously broke both teams' momentum. But I think most people would agree at that time OG were in the ascendancy. And certainly Alexi B seems to think so. He did a tweet saying he's going to talk about it much at a later date once he's composed his thoughts and probably checked in with his org, honestly, and the Blast. But yeah, crazy stuff. But anyway, so G2 skate through that one. They beat Spirit. Remember, they lost to Spirit, I think, at Katowice. With Kenny S, the last event they had Kenny S for. So, they're definitely headed in the right direction, but I still don't think the idea that G2 were going to be world beaters, I'm not there yet. I don't know about you.
The problem they have is, like, the team actually looks way better now that Jax came back. Like this is one of those examples, by the way, where it does make you wonder how even pro players see their fucking teammates. Because I'm so sick of finding teammates where, like, the stats aren't great, but it turns out they just do, like, some pivotal shit in the game that enables you to even have your team. And instead, pro players still act like, but this guy's a better fragger. It's like, does he do what you need on your team? Because you've seen now, like you say, mate, both Jax and Amanek. Remember when the whole debate was like, which one do we kick? Well, the answer apparently was neither. They were fundamental to the structure of the fucking team. Meanwhile, I know now he's the shit again, so no one's going to care, but Hunter just got to chill and get shot by everyone for like 6 months, and that was just cool because his name isn't Jax or Amanek, so he gets to have a job for those months. So, to me, the interesting thing about this team is they, unfortunately, because of the way it went with Kenny S, they're basically back where they were before. Like, think about when G2 were at their prime with Kenny S before they had Nico. They were like, in the online era, they were still like a top 3 or 4 team. Like, they would make semis runs. Like, they were in the mix, maybe. They could make a final, but they weren't winning the events. Like, this team's capable of that. They look good now. But the problem is, now they've just got a flaw in terms of the AWPer. Like, that it works against some teams. It's not going to work against the best AWPers in the world. And then the other problem is, like, now they actually have a mild firepower problem, in my opinion. They still have a very good team, but now they don't have, like, loads of skill. Think about what they had before with that team. Like, realistically, it's just Hunter and Nico who have to go fucking ham. If they go ham, you've got a chance. But so as a result, like, I kind of feel like the problem is, if I had to guess, for the rest of this year, they're just going to be like the 5th or 6th best team. I don't think, like, maybe they can win an event if everything goes perfect, but I don't see how they get to number 1. So in a way, you got a better team on paper, but is it actually better than G2? Put it this way, unfortunately, it doesn't do what you brought Nico in for, which is become number 1.
Yeah,
you're not anywhere close to that, really.
And then the other sort of final over in the showdown was a run back of the Pro League final, which of course was Heroic and Gambit, probably the best 2 teams in the world right now.
Yep.
Don't think there's any debate about Gambit being the best one. And indeed, they did win out, but it was another nice back and forth. They swapped picks, to show depth. They had a pretty solid contest on Train. And like I say, right now, Heroic and Gambit, when they square off against each other, you're probably going to watch the best Counterstrike that there is out there at the moment, which is why I find some of the, like, people's perceptions about, it'll all change when we get back to LAN. I don't think these teams are going to be affected. I mean, they're already playing under LAN conditions. Heroic are in a fucking, training facility. So, I don't know. I think some of the people that are trying to be a bit derisory, like saying like Gambit and Heroic aren't going to replicate this form at LAN when we get back to LANs later this year. I don't feel that at all. I think these guys have just elevated. Well, it might not even be that they've elevated the game, although I think that's part of it. I just think all the other top tier teams are either in transition, Astralis, Vitality, Na'Vi, or just playing dog shit. See, Evil Geniuses.
It is worth saying, because one thing people have forgotten is, aside from Astralis, who we don't even know if their team makes it to land with the original 5, every other fucking team's made player changes. So technically, even the ones that are supposed to be land teams, those teams don't exist. Like, there's none of them exist anymore, boys. Like, Vitality don't have Alex, G2 doesn't have... Like, everyone's made player changes by now. Everyone. So, actually, the problem is, it's going to be a mixed bag no matter who goes on land at this point in time.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. I mean, but anyway, so Gambit won that one out, but I mean, Heroic is still going to be feeling pretty good about their development. Up to 3rd in the world, they're about to leapfrog Astralis, most likely as well, depending on how other events go. And Gambit cemented their number 1 spot, which is par for the course right now. As I said, Gambit are a team that you definitely want to watch and keep an eye on if you get an opportunity to see them play, because they've got teams, they've rather players that are just playing god tier Counterstrike right now in almost every position. So there you go. That was a rundown of what happened at the Blast Spring Showdown, the Blast Spring Finals. That's a way off. That's about 2 months down the road. Coming up next will be the DreamHack Masters Spring. And there's actually a ton of big teams at that one as well, because with it being online, people will go to DreamHacks again. So there you have it. I think that's pretty much all of the news and all the topics we wanted to touch on. So now we'll get ourselves into the old patron questions. If you pay $50 or more, you get to ask us a question. Can be about anything. We'll do our level best to answer it and make it entertaining. Benakagi, if CS is heading to a darker period where the scene shrinks, what, if anything, can be done now to help restore it? I mean, it's probably the same answer you've heard a million times from me. I don't know what Duncan's thoughts are, but for me, Valve has to simply care enough. If you think about every time there's a problem, right? Dota numbers were in fucking free fall. What did Valve do? Completely overhauled new player experience. There's now a fucking tutorial in fucking Dota. Do you know how I know? I forgot because I didn't fucking disable it. Right, I was playing the other day and I died, and some little shitty wizard cunt, right, who looks like nothing else in the game, came up in the top corner and went, "Ha, you died with full 1 charges." Like, you fucking cunt. Like, not now. Right? So they've even put a tutorial in the game, right? And fucking, they've made an anime. Let's go make an anime, right? Here's an animated series. They've now put more content in the game with Aghanim Shard, all new different abilities, complete rebalancing of the game, fundamental changes of roles, change the map, and it gets patched regularly. They have the DPC, just had the major in Singapore. Well, fucking hell, if Valve put a fraction of that effort into CSGO, we'd be in a much better place. But for whatever reason, Dota is their jam. They consider it the jewel in the crown out of all the achievements Valve have, with the exception of Steam, which is a revolutionary product that has enhanced all of our lives. Anyone who bangs on Valve and has a Steam account, shut the fuck up. Because me and Duncan are old enough to remember having to go down to game on a fucking weekend. Have you got any copies of this game? No, sorry, we're all sold out of Thief 2. Yeah, brilliant. I'll come back next week then. But yeah, so for me, it would just be getting Valve on board. I keep thinking they're going to do it one day, but I've been around long enough now where I don't know, it's almost like a self-delusional fantasy. So
my problem is this, Richard, is I actually personally am convinced they will never do it. They will never have a proper community liaison, because here's what says it to me. Is this moment recently where they got this social media account to be active and they even started engaging with all the memers and all that stuff. That was the appropriate moment to then roll out something like this. Whereas instead, what that says to me is, all right, so they don't actually want us to be transparent and talk to them for real. They just want us to take part in their silly, low-hanging fruit, stupid tweet. Right, well, no problem with that. Get a guy in, have him tweet out the same stupid-ass memes, have him tweet at Cadian Bet, or have him tweet at fucking Tarek. Content, this is content. Like, listen, I thought all the shit betting companies had this all nailed, guys. Do we need more people to do it? Apparently the game dev has to do it. But the fact that, that's their compromise, that's nothing. That's just throwing fucking, just like that's like bread and circuses for morons. Like, there's nothing quality there. It doesn't help the games or the space. So
they did tweet out about
implies they don't care
about
it. There's one thing they did. They don't care.
Yeah, I mean, so but that's what I mean. It's like there've been signs Like it's the most played game on Steam. They've had a couple of misses, haven't they, with the Artifact and the Underlords. And I mean, they recently abandoned Artifact V2. They just we're not even going to rework this. This is a waste of time. So you hope now, come on, like what are you all doing over there? I know you're all fucking jacked up on VR. You're definitely not making Half-Life 3. You're definitely not making another Left 4 Dead anymore. Like, come on, like just throw just some resources towards building something comprehensive for CS. It needs it now more than ever. But unfortunately, to answer the question, I don't see what we do. NA has fallen. It's not coming back. It is. If I'm here 2 years from now saying, holy shit, look at all these sick NA teams in NA orgs, I'll be very fucking surprised and happy to be wrong. But my gut feeling is they're not coming back. They're going to get a good thing with Valorant. You know, maybe the Overwatch League's going to pay off when Overwatch 2 comes out somehow. And yeah, they're not going to come back to a game that doesn't support their requirements to run an esports team. You know, as far as they're concerned, they have the model down. Yes. Valve's game does not meet that model. It cannot interface with that model.
That's also another problem that a lot of like more general or CS only related esports fans might not understand. The other thing that's the killer is this, right? As Richard said, Valorant doesn't even have the franchise league yet. They've just sort of like, they're sort of teasing you, teasing you. They might give you it eventually because you know everyone wants it. But even without that, we've got LCS. LEC is the same shit, which meaning League of Legends Franchise League. We've got LCS, we've got Overwatch League, and we've got CDL, the Call of Duty ones and Overwatch ones. The problem is, all of these fucking CS owners are in at least 2 of those, and if a Valorant League comes around, some of them are going to be in 3, if not all 4. So the problem is this, guys. It's not even about money anymore. Like, even if that org gets $10 million more, they're just going to put it into one of those leagues. They're not going to put it in the CSGO. So unfortunately, right now, I know it sucks, because obviously me and Richard have been against the idea you have to run the American franchise model for many years, but there's no option left right now. The only way the big orgs come in from America is if you give them that model. If you don't, they're out. It's one of the reasons why you guys didn't get it, that thinking that turning down Flashpoint was going to help you wasn't. Turning down Flashpoint was basically saying to certain NA owners, like, that was your one last try at making it in CS. It didn't work, so see ya. So they're like, okay, I'm off. There's my one chance I wanted. You know, I don't want to do the other approach because for whatever reason they don't. And so they're out. So I don't see, quite frankly, bearing in mind, Valve doesn't have any interest in franchise leagues. I don't see how we ever get back from this. Like, Flashpoint was supposed to be sort of like a middle ground compromise for that. And even then, people didn't go for it. So I think we're fucked in CS in that sense. Listen, it could still be a cool European game. Like, maybe it's just like one of those games like only exists in Korea or whatever. Like, you'll still have some really good teams. You have some great tournaments. We'll enjoy it still. But it just won't be this enormous game. Like, that feeling 2 years ago of like, wow, look how huge they get. That won't happen, unfortunately. That's probably what we're going to lose.
There's a stack of pressure on the next major. The next major has to absolutely bang to a degree that probably no major has before. It has to immediately, I mean, the pressure PGL are under, you know, the pressure everyone's under to make this major something outrageously special. It's got to immediately go into the top 3 majors. To sort of, because what you need the major to do is be so awesome, so epic, have such a big crowd, have so many amazing moments at LAN, you know, with great commentary because everyone's fired up to be just back in a stadium with fans, and it's got to have super high level production and no tech problems. Valve, don't fucking patch your game during the major, please. So, you know, you have to have all of that go right, because if it does, it'll go viral, it'll blow up on Twitch again, people will be tweeting about it. Maybe then you can sort of capture people's imaginations. Maybe some of those Valorant players getting bored of Valorant, maybe they want to move over and try CS. That's a phenomenon I said was going to happen. Once again, proven right. You see threads about that on the front page of the CSGO subreddit all the time. Just moved over from Valorant. There will always be something in CS because it is an amazing game with an amazing format. And the skill ceiling is so incredibly high that you are going to, you know, it will always create those hype moments. And we've got some of the best commentators to ever commentate in any esport still active in the scene. So it's, you know, but if the major is a damp squib and it doesn't bang, I mean, you know, we have to be resigned to waiting for Global Offensive 2 or CS3 or, whatever it's going to be, because it's, it will be a downward spiral from there. If people look at an event and go, yeah, that wasn't all that great, and that's their majors, is it? We're fucked. We'll be fucked in Europe, and we'll be fucked all around the world. Right. Benedict. One of my favourite things from Rich's The Magic Working with Thorin videos was Thorin's culinary review of event food. To continue in this tradition, can either of you share any stories of memorable highlights or lowlights of event food? Duncan's highlights is always Korean barbecue. I know that. You love that shit.
There's not many highlights, put it that way. Mostly the food scenario events is shit. It's mainly on the shit side, unfortunately.
I mean, do you remember Inclusion of Poker when we had that, like... That
cabbage and cheese.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Right.
No, but that was when we hadn't eaten all day. And we didn't even have bottled water on the first few days. And we'd done like fucking 8-10 hours of broadcast. And we're like, come on, someone's got to have some food in this motherfucker. Like, I can't eat a Nutri-Grain bar. I need a hot meal, And so the production crew had a truck that would come in and bring them like local food. And someone said, oh, we'll bring like you and Duncan and everyone else over at the desks. We were on the other side of this massive building. It wasn't like you could just run in 5-minute break and go to a vending machine or whatever. If you were getting food, you were a fucking man on a mission. And so that was where famously Hellspawn had just decided that we don't eat. He
just
said,
tell us that to our face.
And told us it to our face. We're like, why haven't our meals turned up? And he said,
man triggered at an event hungry, of course. I know.
Yeah, he said, well, I made a professional decision that what should come first is you being on the broadcast or you eating food. And of course, I chose the broadcast. Brilliant. Yeah, cheers, mate.
Hey, people, the saddest thing is, Richard,
Cheers,
people will think that's some like ludicrous caricature. That is almost word for word where he literally said into my triggered, hungry face. And I'm already known as someone. Listen, you guys don't even know. I've somewhat mellowed over the years. This was in my prime. This is when I
2015, you were a cunt.
Yeah, this is when if you brought the sugar-free version of the energy drink I asked for, I'd have gone mental. So like the idea you're just going to tell me to my face, like I've decided not to give you food, like sound.
So anyway, when we got the food, right, I opened it and it was something soft and slimy that may have been a potato. It was like maybe a potato cabbage hybrid. I don't know what was going on there.
It was definitely vegetable related somehow.
Yeah, somehow. And then it had and just a cold grey slab of meat that may have been a pork chop.
But it was loving Europe.
But it was great.
The meat. It's like what you can't even guess what animal it came from.
No, but like literally, we asked them. We said, "Well, what is that?" And they said, "Oh, it's meat." And I went, "Yeah, from what? From where?" Like.
Dude, that makes it more disturbing when they just say meat. That makes it sound like, well, we just had to kill a few prisoners. So,
yeah, I know.
What are you talking about?
Yeah, what is this, the fucking Walking Dead? Am I in terminal now? Like, what's going on here, man? What do you mean, meat? But they couldn't even say. I was like, well, is it pork? If it's pork,
that's
I'm not
how bad the events were in 2015.
Yeah.
That they were literally doing fucking like memes from Lord of the Rings. Meat's back on the menu, lads.
No, but you have to remember as well. I was at some event in France. Can't even remember. And I saw someone tucking something, and I went, "Oh, that looks nice. What's that?" And he went, "Horse." And I'm like, "I'm not eating a horse. Like I'm going my whole life."
Obviously, Kiyashima was looking a bit nervous.
Funny enough, didn't see him that event. I was worried for him. Yeah, there was just like a pair of glasses and a goatee beard on top of this gravy. No, but like I'm going my whole life without eating horse, like, and I feel pretty good about it. Why are you eating horses? Like, these noble, majestic creatures. I got no problem eating a fucking cow. Look at them. Got it coming, haven't they? But a horse, France, sort it out, like. So anyway, yeah, that was a bad one. But, I mean, we've had some banging fucking nights out and some banging meals.
For sure, yeah.
And
I will say, by the way, if people don't know, because obviously I don't often give, like, compliments out, I'll say one area that I was mega fucking impressed by was actually Atlanta. Mate, Atlanta has some amazing fucking restaurants. Oh, like, the average quality of the restaurants
that South City Kitchen was so good, mate. Yeah,
the food is so rich.
Yeah. I mean, like what I'll say there as well was this, and this is like just another little mad story. You know, I'll try and keep it as clean as I can. But we would regularly go to an adult club while we were in Atlanta because, as you might know, Atlanta has more kind of strip joints or whatever per.
There's a lot of rappers, in case people were unaware.
Yeah. So I mean, it's a very lucrative business out there, and there was one in particular that we would go to regularly, and they knew us in there. We would rock up there after a show because in Atlanta they've still got the liquor license laws where it locks down, so you have to have a special license, and not many people do it. So in these adult clubs, you can get late night beverages, and so we would go there sometimes. And I would never in my life again. I would have thought I'm just going my whole life never eating in a strip club.
I always thought the same thing. Yeah, there's something about it feels wrong.
That's like that Chris Rock bit, where it's like you've been there all day, you're eating a sandwich, like yes, dance for me. Like that's like some level of tragedy. Like I can't get there. But anyway, so somebody said, "Oh, like the fucking food is banging in this strip club." I'm like, "Fuck off, man!" But I was Hank Marvin, and I hadn't eaten. I'd skipped out, done the show. Went there, and so I said, "Oh, give me a steak. I'll have a steak and some whiskey, whatever." And brought a steak out, fucking proper banging classic. Anyway, it turns out like they've got like some mad fucking like 4-star fucking restaurant like tacked onto the side, and it's the same gear. So basically, the chef that does the steaks for that restaurant fries up your steak in his fucking strip club. So it was fucking. I was like, "This is fucking great. Why I'm coming here all the time." So. And did for the entirety of season 1 E-League.
Put it this way, I'll tell you the worst food I ever had at an event, and it was just because it's pretty safe. I'm never going to this event again. I'm never going to this country. Who gives a fuck? It was in China, unsurprisingly, where basically back in the day when you used to get invited to some of these events, there were the ones where they actually used to sort of, in theory, take care of everything, which was a big deal back then. No one would do it for journalists, for fuck's sake. So they would pay your flight, your all accommodation. When you were there, they would give you food, right? Because what I learned was they give the food like that to the local reporters who are in esports. The guy who just goes to every LPL game or whatever the fuck, and it's just a beat reporter. So they'll give those guys food, right? But as you can imagine, it is the most low-cost food you have ever seen. Like, it is literally just some sort of, like, very basic rice with, like, oil on it, so, some sort of fat, to give it some flavour, and just, like, again, the cheapest possible, like, pork you could ever access, and it's just given in a box at that. It wasn't great, put it that way. I wasn't a fan.
Well, I remember the WCG in 2009 in Chengdu. I've told this story before, but that was when Cadred sent out a crew of people, and I said, "I'm not going." I think and even then, at a younger age, I kind of felt like me going to China was a very bad idea. Right? Like so. Anyway, we sent out a crew, and Red Eye was out there.
Story already's gotten 10% more interesting. Let's go.
Yeah,
Where are we going here?
Red Eye was out there. And they all went out and had like a
And he goes, "What is this bloody? Where the prawn crackers at?" Some ridiculous boomer
No. Weren't like that. But he basically went, they had like a Brazilian barbecue, like buffet that they put on, right? So obviously everyone knows Brazilian barbecue is banging, right? Like everyone loves that. And meat on a stick, basically. It's great.
It's pretty good, yeah.
Yeah. All different types, all on a stick. It's perfect. And so anyway, they all were digging into that. And basically, it just wrecked everyone. There was something bad there.
Being food poisoning, for sure.
Everyone got horrendous fucking food poisoning. And so Paul was like, I can't even remember. I think he was doing the 1.6 out there.
Yeah.
And I remember him telling me, he said he was so deathly ill. Like, he had a bucket off, like, just off stage. And he was, like, he'd be coming out and going, and now, like, pale and sweaty. Like, and now, Fnatic are taking out. And obviously, like, no one speaks English anyway. He's giving it his fucking best, doing his bits, all of that, right? And then he said he would walk off backstage and be spewing in a bucket. He said he was shitting through the eye of a needle. Like, he was just, so dehydrated from diarrhea. And he said, like, it wasn't like, when you have a dodgy kebab and you fucking throw your washer up and you're never quite sure whether or not it was the kebab or the 20 pints.
He knew for sure this was like,
this was 100% dangerous, should have been hospitalized food poisoning. And it was like, he's on stage like trying to hold the fucking shit in, like running like it's like some Mad Alan Partridge fucking sketch. So when he and obviously he was giving me regular updates coming back in 2009, and he was mates with Corin, who I used to work on the website with as well. And I'd be getting updates from Corin would be really sympathetic to like Red Eye. Corin, he'd be going, "Oh, that's really bad, Paul, but you're a brave soldier. Keep doing it. Everyone's really appreciative. Everyone's loving it." And then he would get off that call. He'd go, "Fucking Paul nearly shit himself on stage." But I was just getting updates about Paul's Red Eye's bowels, like so. So yeah, anyway, yeah, not for me. Be very wary about them all-you-can-eat buffets as well, by the way, because they certainly do scrimp and save.
For sure.
So there you go. There's all the food-related stories for you. Right, what else? Alice says, it's not a question, but a big happy birthday on Saturday to our longest supporter of so many esports personalities team shows, our super oiler, Nicola. No, it's Jerky's Minion, of course.
There we go.
Go break that record, son, and eat 100 pieces of sushi. Apparently he's a sushi fanatic, and he's been building up to eating 100 pieces in a single.
That would wreck you 100 pieces.
One day, brother, one day. But yeah, happy birthday to you, mate. He's still in lockdown where he's at, so he can't go out and celebrate. But we'll all have a tear up when we're out of lockdown in 2023. Rez Chi and Walkie, what's the dumbest purchase you've ever made, and what's the best purchase you've ever made?
All right, I think I know what this is already, right? Bear in mind, as I've pointed out many times, I did not come from a family that had, like, money. Forget loads of money, just money. Like, we had, like, the bare fucking minimum, and you do what you can with hand-down clothes and stuff. So when I was about, like, 17 or 18, and you're at the point where you've got, like, some disposable income, right? I stupidly blew, like, a whole year's worth of that fucking disposable income buying one of those mini disc players, which, if people don't know, was, like, marginally better than a CD quality, and it really was just for like tech wankers who want to show off that they've got some like next level shit, right? And I remember buying it, and even a week in, just going, right, because I'm honest like this. It's a bit like when CDs came out and everyone was going, it doesn't have the same warmth as the vinyl, and I was going, listen, I'm not a wanker, I can't hear that, mate. It just sounds the same. Like, so same thing. I was listening to it, and I was even in my mind going, I can't even lie to myself. It sounds just the same as it did before when I had the CD player, but I've spent like 300 fucking quid on it, and then I was just thinking to myself, I could have upgraded my PC with that. Like, basically, anything else I could have done with the money would have made sense. That made no sense whatsoever. So that is one where I look back now, and essentially all I got out of that was like maybe at one moment some fucking kid might have gone, "Oh, I mean, but that's about it. That's all I got for that money." What a fucking waste of money that was.
Yeah, I'm trying to think what my worst fucking purchase is. I've definitely, mate. Oh, here you go. I just did one recently. It's not the worst, but it's just an example. So, obviously, there was a period of time where I was lost in the sauce, and like some boomer housewife, I would like just buy fucking, like, put it this way. This is like, I shouldn't even speak ill of the dead because she's no longer with us. But one of my mate's mother was, she was big into her temazepam and all of that. And, you know, I would see her in the morning when I was off to work. Hey, all right, and she'd have a can of Foster's. It was fucking 8 a.m. She'd have a can of Foster's and just be popping temazepam, like, yeah, it's brilliant. Yeah, it is, isn't it? When you're doing that in the mornings. So what she would do is she would be on them home shopping channels, and she would buy everything, and then she'd be too fucked up to remember what she bought, so she'd just be getting, you know, like, you would just see like delivery men outside the fucking house, like, you know, well, here's some marble tiles, you know. She blew all her savings on like just mad demented shit. But I started falling into that, like, late night browsing and buying, like not
you're watching like the Billy May shit. Here we are, the new Top Dick, like,
no, just Amazon.
Oh, right, okay.
So, mate, right, I'm like, and basically what happens is drunk Richard buys something thinking it's going to be fucking straight fire, right? And sober Richard, hungover Richard, doesn't even remember buying it. And then you wake up in the morning and you just like, look, you get like a text. Your order will arrive today. And you go, oh, God, no, not again. Not again. And you look. Put it this way, here's something I bought just recently for Nora and me. So,
it's going to be some absolute bollocks, I can tell. What is this?
Right. I bought from a specialist store that sells through Amazon a 1970s Olympic Russian tracksuit.
You don't even need to go any further than that, but keep going. Yeah, go on.
You know, as wore by the Russian
Why would that detail? Why even add that? It's the way you added that in. I'm like, listen, hold on. Let me finish the story. As worn by the guy in Salford.
Not literally, of course.
It's
not literally worn by him, is it? It's not match worn. They didn't wear it at the Olympics. It's just.
I mean, replicas.
Yeah,
right?
replica.
I don't know. I mean, no, it's one of the originals.
Yeah. But
Right.
It's not match worn though. It's not an Olympic person wore it.
I don't know, mate. It's gone straight in my cupboard. I didn't check for sweat under the armpits, So anyway. It's got a hang glider collar and the rings and all of this on it, right? And that's hundreds just burnt for no reason, right? I didn't even remember doing it. And it turned up and I'm looking at it going, fucking hell. All right, may as well put this on. Of course, I'm a fat bastard, not an athlete. Yeah, I thought, fucking I'll put it on.
As if you put it on, like...
I know.
I want to see if I can get, at least, mate, I've got to get a laugh out of it at this point. I'm fully committed. And, mate, I look like Dozier in this tracksuit. It's absolutely insane. Like, we just go, because they're all fit, aren't they, athletes and that? They're all fit. So, it just goes whap, just like a fucking toad being held up.
I thought you were buying it as a collectible, not as an outfit. Like, you're buying it to go in the wall.
Probably in retrospect, yeah. No, it all come, like, lovingly sealed and that. I probably shouldn't have took it out the packet, but fuck it, it's just stuffed in a cover. So I do shit like that all the time, mate. Like, I'm fucking mental. But the best purchase for me, always the big telly. I say it every time. Every time I make a major bit of money, I upgrade my TV. I had a few extra inches on, much like my waistline, and try and I've got like a massive 80-inch 4K TV now, and it I thought it was all wanky tech when it first come out, but as a bit of a, someone who loves cinema, I appreciate that. And that was when I knew I was making money in esports. I remember buying like a fucking 50-inch TV and surprising the missus with it because we used to watch fucking, we'd be huddled up watching fucking whatever dog shit she used to like Midsummer Murders or whatever on a fucking tiny little TV. When she come home, we had a big fucking, it was 50-inch it started out as, and upgraded to 80-inch over the time. So always a wicked purchase, a big television. What was your best purchase? You haven't done that.
I don't know for that one. I don't really have a good one for that. Like, I can't think of anything that was that.
My mini disc was shit, but let me tell you.
I mean, basically, the cheat answer would just be like, I don't know, whatever PC I got my esports career from or some garbage, but it's not that great an answer. I don't really have like a best buy in that sense.
Yeah. All right. Next one, Carve. Which ESL? I already see where this is going. Which ESL has done a better job at lying and trying to monopolize their space? The football ESL or the ESL who managed to fit 300,000 people into the Sportdeck arena? So, listen, shout out to Carve. One of the funnier guys on my Discord.
If people don't know, I am actually fairly sure. Obviously, I have to say fairly because I can't confirm this is going from memory. But I am fairly sure there was once a time, because I know it happened during MLG Columbus, where Carmack and Adam from MLG were sniping at each other, where Adam basically pointed out exactly what you're talking about. Like, I believe Carmack had actually, like, quoted some number that, like, physically couldn't even fit in the Sportdeck. Like, like 12,000.
Yeah, because what they did, because I remember this, it was turnstile. It was what they call footfall.
Right, there we go.
So basically, if I went into the Sportdeck for 5 minutes, I did that and walked out, I attended Katowice, apparently. And that's how they did it, footfall. You see, people won't remember that. There was a period of time when we were still kind of scrambling for legitimacy in the start of the stadium era, and we had to all inflate our numbers and talk bollocks about it, because that's where, that's what you were selling to the sponsors suddenly in your decks. We went from viewership numbers to live attendance numbers. And so the way you scammed it back then, the gimmick was you called it footfall. I had 500,000 people come to my event. How many actually sat down in a chair and watched the games? 5,000, but why split hairs? And so that was how they were doing. Now, just to answer the question, because I know obviously it's a joke question for Carve. I'll obviously not even esports ESL could have fucked up as much as this European Super League did, because they literally, these 12 teams from across 3 leagues, all the big teams, basically, and Arsenal and Tottenham. They basically thought it was all going to be okay. They consulted with nobody
It's mad, isn't it?
Except each other. In a secret clandestine conference, they didn't talk to the players. They didn't talk to the managers. And they just thought that we'll announce this and it'll all be okay. And of course, it definitely wasn't okay. And people have gone, but not even ESL could fuck up this spectacularly. And they have some notorious PR. So it's definitely football ESL. And here we are, 30 hours later or whatever. It's all over. Everyone pussied out on the ESL Super League. So there you have it. Reykjavik. As a fan of American styles of sports, would an international community esports league, abbreviated to the word incel, be this?
I see where the problem with our fans is they all reverse engineer the jokes, don't they? They know where they want it to go, Richard, and they just find a way to get there. Because you always think, where's he starting off with this? It was always just get to the acronym incel. We all know that's the whole question.
At the end of the day, I feel responsible. I think we've trained them, don't we?
We have.
Yeah.
It's because remember they know they can't. They've now learned they can't just straight up ask us some like mad egregious questions. They have to try and trick you into asking it and put it together in our brains, basically.
Would it be the saving grace that the scene really needs by combining Valorant and CS? I mean, what I would like to see, and this would never happen, one of the things I hate about esports is if you competed in other disciplines and you go and you're successful in another discipline that's the same genre, the developers don't like it. Developers don't like it. I mean, I can tell you, and again, I don't like to be unprofessional and talk too much about some stuff, but there are some developers out there, like, for example, when I've done a Rocket League event, don't think I'll be doing another one of them for a while. The Psionics, they're not mad keen on you talking about other games, which was hilarious because on the second day of the G2, I had no sleep. The G2 event I did, and I did introduce you and say we had a great day of Counterstrike yesterday, just on reflex, so completely fucking shit the bed good and proper on that one. But yeah, I mean, like some people don't like you talking about the games. I wish games developers could just move past that and sort of acknowledge, and what I'd like to see is when Valorant starts popping off with its content, because Riot will do a good job there. And all of the NA orgs will do a good job. I want people to be able to lean into the fact this guy was a CS great, this guy did this, this guy did this. I don't want their history to start anew because they've moved game. So it'd be nice to see some sort of cross-promotional work, like just something a bit fun like that, but probably not. Developers are precious little babies when you distill it all down. First sock. Where do you see Counter-Strike as a whole going in the far future, i.e. 3-5 years, or maybe even further down the road?
Listen, here's the problem, Fursock. You only give $50. That's the fucking $10 billion question, mate. That's ridiculous. Listen, it's all right question. The problem with it is you also probably couldn't have picked a worse time to ask the question. I think any other year we could give you a way better trajectory, but there are so many variables. Like, put it this way, I could literally see almost all possibility. Like, I could see the game's just dead completely. I could see the game's not in a bad spot, actually. It's recovered. Maybe Lance came back and people got into it again and gradually it built up again. Like, that could happen. CS came and went with CSGO and 1.6 transition. The problem is, like, all the variables that would determine all these things, like, even the people in control of them right now have no fucking clue what they're doing or which direction we're going on that.
I mean, listen, I'll just say I think the scene, certainly by 5 years, as we know it, is done.
We'll probably need a CSGO 2 by then, right?
Well, we'll basically be like a StarCraft or something.
Just a niche game, basically.
Yeah, and I think Valve will stop the RMRs and the majors and everything because it's not going to be financially expedient to do it. I mean, we'll have to wait and see. The bottom line is what really concerns me is I saw a graph about it was the case sales.
Okay.
And how they varied by like operation and stuff. And there've been some stinkers basically. And I don't think, I know everyone's like, oh, Valve, it's a license print money. Money's all they care about. No. I don't want to lean into that trope because that certainly isn't true because there's things they could have done that would have been infinitely more profitable that they just don't do. So it's objectively false. But when it comes to cases and CS, I definitely think that's almost a better indicator of what we're going to get out of the game. And the last operations case didn't sell particularly well by some of the ones that have gone previous. And all the changes they've made to the way skins work and, trading blocks and stuff like that. It's all had an impact. There's a lot of people jetting off their skins now. And that's almost like, if you think about skins as a cryptocurrency, which in many ways, essentially, they were almost like a precursor to that. There is almost like a market panic that's very palpable at the moment, and I think Valve will be paying more attention to that than anything else. So I think probably they'll probably piece the fuck out. Anyway, too difficult a question to really nail down first up, but maybe we'll do a round table, me and Duncan. We'll get the horseman or whatever and a CS expert.
That might be a four horseman topic sometime soon. In fact, to be fair, if people suggested if it was interesting enough, it could be one now. Yeah.
Have to be summoned for it. So, Chingu, what was the worst event you've ever attended as talent?
Oh, the good news on this, by the way, Rich, is I've got an update. People who watch the show will know. So my old one was a classic one. You were there. Was that fucking one it was the one where it was like the World Championship, where it was all the national teams in Serbia. And then it was the one where like fucking Scoots was our host and the desk was just fucked completely. That Avela guy just essentially did the whole event so he could cast his own dream casting duos with like Bardolph and DDK. And then even mad shit was happening. Like fucking like Lord, the coach of the Polish team, was just borderline cheating on stage and stuff. Like everything about it was absolute shit. Like the level of Counterstrike wasn't great. Like here's a good one for you guys. You're probably thinking, oh, the nations of Counterstrike, how did Sweden do? Didn't even make the final because they sent 3 fucking in-game leaders. Yeah, that's right. Swedish national team was Exist, Devil Walk, and like fucking Pronax. So like, what is this lineup? Like, so basically, the actual tournament wasn't great anyway. Everything for talent was scuffed as fuck and all that. But you know what? Congratulations to who was the company who did that one? eFrag.
eFrag.
Yeah. Congratulations to eFrag. You now get to move to number 2 because Flashpoint 2 has to take the number 1 spot. How about this? First of all, during part of the event, I can't even breathe fresh air. That's now a new thing. Never thought I'd get to that level. Thought being able to breathe fucking air as a human being would probably be always on the basic list. Now that's out the window. Then number 2, I'm doing fucking testing all the time where I've been told if one person fails a test, we're all fucked. But if you know anything, say you were a journalist like I am, unlike plebs in the real world, if you know about PCR cycles, you know it's basically guaranteed someone's going to pop. It's almost impossible. You could do like fucking 400 of those tests in a row and have 0 pops for it, whether it was for legit or not. So that was done already. Knew that was.
It's a shame you couldn't breathe air because you bet your nostrils were fucking clean.
There you go. It's mental. And then the last detail is the event ended with me essentially under house arrest, but still forced to work a Counter-Strike event. So I can't really see how anyone's going to beat that one unless someone just kills me, at which point I won't be able to answer the question, will I? So I guess in the end, you win forever, Flashpoint 2. We'll always have those memories, baby. P.S. Fuck every Flashpoint order till the end of time. There we go.
Oh, mate. House arrest at an esports.
That's what it's like. It was mental. I've never even had an ASBO. I was to go and fucking straight and clean all those shit. See, this is what you all do to us. I got out of the fucking ghetto and you still treated me like any scum from Middlesbrough. House arrest. Can't even leave. Can't even breathe fresh air.
For me,
to be fair, I didn't
how much fucking the Smoggies, known for its fresh air.
That one,
known for its fresh air. Mate, I remember when we all got wrecked. We went down, Newcastle fans, to the Riverside Stadium, and we all had like fucking hazmat suits on and stuff. They wouldn't let us in the fucking game. Cunts.
What the fuck? What, just because of the banter?
Yeah, they couldn't handle it, mate. The fucking that's too much. That is like that's too. What do you mean it's too much, mate? It's fucking. But you do know that you're known for your smog.
I can't breathe, man.
Like. Yeah, exactly. Like it's fucking your fucking smog is notorious up in Newcastle. So anyway, they didn't like it. So whatever, we just went to the pub and got fucked up. Anyway, well, I've said it many times. Obviously, Cluj was the worst event to begin with. I had some personal nightmares that you all know. DreamHack Hell in a Cell. Was a bad one that could have ended very dark.
I will just say, think about what an indictment it is. That isn't the Automac number 1, Richard.
No, I know.
DreamHack Winter 2015 doesn't even just automatically get that slot at the number 1. Like, you have to still think about it. That's how bad working events was.
Yeah. I mean, here's the difference with me at that eFrag event was I realised on day 1 this was a fucking mess.
Right.
And so I was shit-faced most of that. Shit-faced or hungover. I existed in 2 states. God bless Yanko for that event, basically. It wouldn't have been salvageable without him.
I always said to him that was the worst part about the event in some ways, mate, is that that's the only time I've ever been to Serbia. So my one experience, unfortunately, is terrible. Meanwhile, as far as I can tell, like when I went to Croatia, which is right next door, it was fucking lovely. So it could have been an awesome experience, and those fucking idiots just ruined it.
But I'm trying to think of a new one, like just some new horrific event. There's definitely been some in the, annals of time. I mean, Christ, I've been blackmailed by Babam.
So that's a real thing that happened to you, mate. I'll tell you what. Someone, if they had no tact whatsoever, could put together an amazing episode of a show that they only have in the UK, sadly, called like "This Is Your Life," but Richard's esports version. Because just think of the lineup you could make for pure banner. It could be like Babam, Loader.
Remember when I said I would go on social media? And I'm like, I know that voice.
It'd be amazing, wouldn't
it? And there he walks out, all 5'2" of him. Like the fucking dwarf from Don't Look Now. I don't know, mate. Honestly, it's like there've been so many shit ones that have really like pushed out my memory, and obviously a ton of shit ones as in the press corps. I mean,
of course, ESWC's immediately coming to memory immediately.
That ESWC where they refused us water. That was what 2010. That was mental. I've never seen anything like that. You understand? We went to fucking France during a fucking heat wave, an unprecedented heat wave, right? And they refused us water. They said the water was for staff only. They had
and it goes without saying they had one of those buildings that didn't have any air conditioning because it's France. Yeah, so you're just inside like a fucking glass building, just like
we're literally in a greenhouse.
Yeah, exactly.
Literally in a greenhouse, surrounded by fucking PCs billowing out heat. Right? I'm like, can I have some fucking water? I'm desiccating here. By the way, as well, because of the person who booked the fucking hotel for us put us in some tiny fucking B&B. On the other side of Paris, I'm pretty sure. I had to wake up every day. This is when people can see me. I was still put together back then in 2010. I had to put a fucking the PC, the desktop we used to render all the footage, because this was with Diablo. He's proper about that. I had to put a desktop PC, on my back and walk across Paris to get to this event in a heat wave, sweating. It was like being in the fucking Marines, mate. It was ridiculous. Like every day started with a speed march and load carry. Get into the event. Oh, I'll just cool off in the fucking greenhouse. I don't think I will. And then you get in there and you're like, please, can I have some water? And some fucking rude French cunt is going, that is for the staff only. Don't you ever touch that again. I went mental. I said, you'd be treated better in fucking Guantanamo Bay, you bastards. I was losing my mind. That was a shit one, like. That was a shit one.
I've heard that actually the problem is, it's true, you would be treated better there, but as a result, Face It couldn't get ECS Season 5 there, like, whatever. Listen, Face It, you're back in the fucking target, so watch your mouth,
Yeah, mate, so anyway, the bottom line is, like, especially the stuff in the early days, events were so bad, it was just like you had to sort of psych yourself up to go to them. You really had to get yourself into a headspace where you knew you weren't going to eat well for 5-6 days. You knew you weren't going to sleep for 5-6 days. You knew you were going to feel like shit permanently for 5. And you had to really get yourself into a headspace.
Do you remember this anecdote? 'Cause it's a mild detail, but you might remember. After the year you're talking about it yesterday, I think you're talking about 2010, right? I famously never, ever, ever said no to my bosses about going to events. If I thought it's my job, I'd go do it. The next year, I invoked my one veto ever as a journalist. I just said, I'm not doing it, SWC. And they were like, but it's already in France. I was like, you send someone else. And I remember I told you that, right? And then you messaged me like literally at the event or something like, yeah, I think you picked the right one.
Yeah, by the way, Duncan, you lucky cunt. That was a bad one. I mean, like, we literally lost our minds. Actually, I've got a podcast that I recorded live from the event with Diablo, who was doing the video editing, and a guy called Mindig, who's quit like esports journalism now. Anyway, yeah, there's literally a podcast of us, and we've lost our fucking mind because that was the fucking day. Well, that was the same event where we saw the French commentators like on the ESWC stage, basically cheating against the Danes or whatever. And so for those who don't know, it was like Very Games versus whatever Fetish's team was called at the time. I can't remember. I think it was Imperial, maybe, but whatever. That's a minor point. And this is when they were like, so every time someone was like shooting at the box or whatever, the commentators would go, wee, 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 wee. Like they would be saying
like a stuck pig. Like
yeah. It was ridiculous. And they'd also said as well.
Why are they so outrageous, French people?
They'd also said as well at the start, right, when he was like the French guy, it was all in French, obviously. He was geeing up the crowd, and he was saying like, I want everyone to say "we." Right, like and he was, but he was going and on my in French it was like, and on my count you have to, we're gonna shout "yeah" really loud. But it came out, he said "un oui maximum" like this, right? So when I saw that in the game, combined with that, we were just fucking buckled laughing, like maximum we. We saw maximum we play out, like competitive integrity, fetish in the post-match interview. Yeah, you did cheat though. Your commentators were cheating, and they're going, "No, this is outrageous." Those events were fucking so ridiculous. Like,
and also, where did he get this water? This water is only for his staff.
Yeah. Meanwhile, I just died of dehydration. I got a fucking drip in. But anyway, whatever. Fuck that. Next question. Echo, CSGO has lasted for nearly a decade now. What is the shittest event of all time? So I presume he means from like a competitive perspective or an entertainment perspective, not just ones we work.
That's a tough one. What's the worst event of all time? I mean, listen, the problem is, right, it's all in context, isn't it? Like, for example, there's a reason why for a major, the Face It major was the one we always cited, because unfortunately, almost everything that could go wrong did go wrong. And then on top of that, they didn't get any bloody good games, did they? Like, that was snake eyes. They just fucked the whole event.
The Game in Paradise one, I wrote in it because I actually wrote a ton of articles about that. And they're still out there. I even interviewed the guy. In
an absolute sense, because that was the one where people don't remember. That was the one where they even took people's passports as they were just like due to instantly go to like, I think like Dubai or something mental right after when it's some mad event you had to fly to. Yeah,
it was that was fucking crazy, and it didn't even finish right. Like they did.
No, I think they might have technically like
online.
Like
I think
I think they were like just play the final online or something stupid like that. Something like that. Yeah.
So that was bad. Most recently, I by Power Masters is another good shout. That was the one where someone just tweeted out, "Yeah, I'm sat here with a gun." Brilliant.
That was probably one of my favourite utterly wrong responses from the public to a journalist when people blamed DK for publicising that the event wasn't using metal detectors in a setting where people could have been murdered. People were mad because he made their video game match get delayed a little bit.
Yeah, I know.
That's the level people are on.
Oh, yeah, totally.
Fucking hell, mate.
I know.
Check yourself.
I know, mental, innit? So... yeah, that was a wild one. They had metal detectors set up, and then they went, "Yeah, you better go around that metal detector, mate. You might set it off fucking loud." Them things like so obviously somebody being a fucking troll tweeted out, "I'm sat here with a gun right now." Obviously weren't serious, but then we've had to evacuate. Everyone's out. The event was already fucked anyway.
Wasn't this even the same year where later in the year that like horrific Call of Duty shooting took place? I think it might even have been the same year, 2018.
Are you thinking about the Madden one?
Oh, actually, it's 2019 I'm thinking of. Yeah, I'm sure it was around the same time, though, wasn't it? Was it a similar time?
So, I mean, listen, it's like...
it's not like there's no precedent.
No, but that was also as well. I mean, like, we've been harping on about event security.
Right, yes, it was, yeah.
We've been harping on about event security for a long time anyway, by that point, hadn't we? And
yes.
So, that was ridiculous. So, I mean, listen, I think in terms of just shit events... Game in Paradise didn't even finish. It will always be up there as one of the worst events ever in CSGO history. And yeah, I'm inclined to agree. If you serve up there was always going to be a major that was bad, but the fact that the Face It London major stands so far apart from even like the second worst major is like, it is crazy to me. So it's one of them. And then the other question from Echo, because he was a hangover from last time, what food item has been completely ruined and has been made different from what it was like when you were young? Loads of these.
Well, there's a lot of those. Like I've obviously mentioned, like Iron Brew was a classic for me. Basically, the main thing that's ruined a lot of them is like the Iron Brew example. It's like where they essentially were able to like save money and like play into some fake health shit by just using like shitter ingredients, basically. So like, like to me, the big problem is this: what old school people understood that the modern generation doesn't is the reason why you could have a super exorbitant, rich like pie with all sugar and extra stuff in is because you didn't eat it every day. You had it on a special occasion, so they can afford to make it super delicious, but obviously not the sort of food you can eat normally. They had to make it now, so it's like, but what if the person drinks 5 Iron Brews a day? It's like, well, no one should do that. No, but what if they did though? So now that has to get within like the reasonable ranges of your diet. So basically, there's a lot of like shit food food that they basically ruined for those exact reasons.
Yeah, I mean, there was tons of stuff I used to eat as a
Loads
kid.
of the crisps also right up there. Fucked all the flavors.
Yeah, well, I mean, obviously, I mean, like, I don't think it was just for fat kids. Like, I don't just hold fat kids responsible for that, right? There was definitely some numbers that were straight giving you cancer and stuff.
Oh, some of that for sure. Yeah, obviously, you'd never been tested, had it? It was just shit they would try it on us.
Yeah, I remember. Shout out to Get Right for the raid at the end of the show. Do appreciate it, mate. We'll be taking those people to another raid in a moment, but thanks. Yeah, like the one that I remember is like because there was a ton of like there was like an number that you put in for spicy food. I used to eat a lot of spicy food as a kid, but like the crap spicy food, like Finder's crispy pancakes or something, you know. And so those were still banging as a kid, but then like you go back and revisit them now. All those numbers are gone because they were like carcinogens. So there's loads, but yeah, nothing's as good as it was. And I also I don't know how much of it is me getting older and your taste buds get clapped out or whatever, but I don't think it is because it's still, you know. But yeah, it's hard to say. But Monster Munch always makes me sad these days. That's a big one.
It's all the low class comfort food ones basically. They're the ones they've sort of fucked a bit, unfortunately.
Yeah. Last question. Rude boy. If you could go back in time to make something happen or stop something happening to protect the future of esports, what would you do?
I mean, the obvious joke would be something like I'd go back in time to the end of 2019 and go, hold on, Thorin, maybe this flashpoint isn't the thing for, you know, that'd be the obvious joke, wouldn't it? That might help. That might help a few matters.
I don't know, man. Like, oh, shit. That's so tough because, you know, there's been so many phases.
What about this? Because he needs a caveat to this. This is the caveat he needs to add, I've realised. The problem is, he's made it such an open-ended question that if it's you or I, we're probably going to think, like, what's the most important thing I could do? But that's just going to sidetrack. Just make it one where it would just be satisfying to you, I think. That's why I made the joke of the Flashpoint one. What is the one thing that you could change that would actually legit, like, you actually think it'd make your life better or it'd be satisfying to know this thing never happened? Is there something that sticks out in that sense?
Yeah, I mean, you know, the obvious one you want to say is the Hell in the Cell, but I'm not apologizing for that anymore. Like, you know, the mad thing is, it's not what you do, it's just who people think you are. Yes. That's the big life lesson to take away from anything. Yes. You can get away, like, for example, you know, you go on Reddit and you know, on like public freakout or something like that, and there's instant justice or instant karma, and you go on those subreddits and you see, like, you know, a guy will be stood there and some guy will be aggressive. And then the guy will launch and drop him with a punch, and all the comments will be, "He was really restrained. He had, you got knocked the fuck out. That'll teach you. Shouldn't bite off more than you can chew, dickhead." And all these people will be like, you know, the general prevailing sentiment is that, you know, if you put up with someone in your face aggressing on you for a period of time, you've shown great restraint. I did that and didn't even hit anybody, and certainly didn't commit any, you know, egregious assault on a person. Literally just pushed someone away. And basically have had to sort of live with it for, you know, 6 years now. All these mad stories, lies still being told to this day. You know, about how I got arrested and there's a
you would think he was in the
ICU
ICU or something, wouldn't you? Like the fucking end result. Like that's the part that they never put any like level of like characterization. It was always like he's a violent aggressor. Like, mate, look at the evidence. Where's the evidence?
So, you know, you want to say that, but like at the end of the day, like I'm trying to think of a scenario. Is there ever a scenario where I would let someone like be sticking their head in my face like that and aggressing on me? And there just isn't. I have too much self-respect. I'm not going to allow that. So, you know, at the end of the day, like it's been, I wouldn't go back in. I've said, I'm probably on record, probably someone can find a recording. I've said, yeah, if I go back in time, I would. But that's obviously the 5-year long apology tour. I thought eventually people would leave it alone. Now I just can't give a fuck, mate. Whatever. Like, you know, there's no unringing the bell that Richard Lewis is a secret scumbag somehow. So, you know, fuck it. Yeah. What? I'm not apologizing. I wouldn't change that. Fuck him. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, like for me personally, there's tons of little moments where it's like, you know, you end up carrying this like gravy. I think what I just realized is, though, it's like I said, I wouldn't change anything in that sense for me, because you're never gonna get, you know, you're never gonna get what you're owed anyway.
No,
Like,
of course not.
I'm one of those people where, and I've seen this for like many an esports personality. My lot is to be absolutely despised while I'm part of the industry, and then I'm gonna leave,
Yep, I know where
and
you're
then
going.
and then a year or two down the line, people are gonna go, "Oh God, yeah, miss Richard Lewis," you know. No one's
Including
really.
some of the cunts, I'll guarantee you were talking shit on you, for sure.
Oh yeah,
For sure.
for real. So I don't know. I mean, like again, this isn't even necessarily a joke. The best thing I probably could have done would be go back in time and go, "This is a really stupid, fucked up, unhealthy hobby that's going to take you to the worst places mentally you've ever been. So don't do it. You think it's cool. It's not. By the way, if this current version of me turned up to fucking me early 20s me, I would just take one look at me and go, "Is that what esports does?" Fucking no way. Like, I would have gotten heroin first.
Esports, not even once.
Yeah, not even once, man. So anyway, right, there you go. That's all the questions. We've done it again. Another bumper show. We're the best, most bloated podcast of all time. So let's shout out the sponsors, which I didn't do at the start. So yeah, let's shout out the sponsors. Go to .com/RLS. Check them out. Long-standing sponsor. We love them dearly. Obviously, our VPN sponsor is NordVPN. You can get 70% off using our referral code, and that is obviously nordvpn.com/RLS. And of course, a shout out to our patrons, which are $100 patrons. Jerky's Minion, happy birthday again. Benedict, Zarathenia, Cathal, Flacksmith, J Dubs, Hannah Maru Alice, Tobias Bernasconi, Carve, Marcus Kiumpa, and our $50 patrons, Dancer Master, Adam Ox, No5712, Judas, I still can't believe Judas is there, Keu, Rude Boy, Earrammer, Norwegian Clamai, Bacon, Goody Woody, Gerhan Kaya, Lonnie, Fursock, Echo, Rez Chi, Miss Alcoholic, BP420, Watch Doge, Reykjavik on Steam, Manuel Stockley, Benakagi, Alex C, and Sard Sawar. That was By the Numbers. We'll see you on the next episode, and until then, take care of yourselves.